Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 240. This is Carl.
This is Josh.
And so we're coming to you remote again today. Schedules are just not lining up for in-person filming, but that's okay. Later this episode, we're going to have a couple guests join us. We're going to have Robo Ed from Life After the Cover Save and Travis Hathcock from Life After the Cover Save as well. They have reconstituted their show finally.
It's back.
It's for better or worse. It's no, but they're great friends of ours, and so we want to have them on for our Warrior Lodge piece. But that is what this episode is. It's a Warrior Lodge a collab, the second collab we've done with another show in the Warrior Lodge. So that will be fun. But we thought we would launch into normal hobby progress, all that announcements. So first thing I'd like to say is this show is sponsored by two of our patrons, Danny Gwynn and the Red Wolf, who I know for a fact is Steve Noya, who's part of our gaming group. But we just randomly draw these folks from our patrons. So thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate that support.
Absolutely.
And I like to remind people we're also part of the Goonhammer Media Network. So check out media.goonhammer.com for more shows and more information. But it's great to be a part of that. So the Warrior Lodge, if you are not familiar with these episodes, the Warrior Lodge is really kind of a roundtable discussion around several topics that are maybe current or ongoing within the Warhammer-ish community. Typically, the Games Workshop
wargaming hobby,
the wargaming hobby. Sure. So it could be a wide-ranging. It could be very focused, but it's a managed kind of discussion about that with a moderator and whatnot. So look forward to those pieces there. So Josh, what's going on in your neck of the woods? Anything exciting while we launch into?
I've just been hobbying away, getting a lot done in preparation for to come open, as we'll cover here in Hobby Progress soon. But yeah, it's been a great time to just paint and play.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's start with our Hobby Progress, and actually let's start with Elite Choice.
The old Elite Choice.
The old Elite Choice. I'm off this morning. Okay, so my choice was Neil Tweed, and I'll tell you, originally I had picked him for the Leagues of Votann guys that he was showing, which I don't have pictured in the video, but I had picked him for his Leagues of Votann guys, which I just thought looked fantastic. But then he goes...
incredible.
Then he goes and posts this Wraith Lord.
Hold my beer.
Is this Alteok?
Yes.
The blue and yellow. Alteok Wraith Lord. The Wraith Lord, for one of my favorite models in the whole line. Certainly within the line of Eldar, I think it's my favorite model. But he's done a bit of conversion here to give it kind of a Dire Avenger looking crest on top of the helm. And just the paint job is phenomenal. The stippling on the blue, the sword in one of them. Like he's got... It's either I think it's multiple models that he's showing, multiple Wraith Lords.
Yeah, I think there's two here.
Yeah, at first I thought it was the same one, duplicated. But
different poses, different bases.
Yeah. The base is what really got me. But man, the work on his sword is just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. It's everything I'd want to be able to do with the power weapon. I haven't quite got that down. So looks fantastic.
As you may recall, I called out Neil last episode for his Warlock Skyrunner Council. So his both Eldar and Votann armies are incredible. Absolutely gorgeous work that he's done.
Yeah. It's just stunning. Absolutely stunning. So great work again, Neil. Just this one. First off, it's a very striking color scheme. I've always thought it's a very striking color. Blue is one of my favorite colors. Yellow looks really good against blue, but he has done it to perfection here. Just perfection. So fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. What about you?
Yep. So I went with, and I'm might screw up the name here, so I apologize. So in the video we actually have the wrong name on there. I don't think you saw my note on that one.
Oh, I didn't know.
So my elite choice is actually Dara Greeny. I think Greeny is the pronunciation. And their Astra Militarum. Just
stop a second. Let me go fix it. Let's cut and do a quick cut to it. What is it? Spell it.
Darragh.
Oops. AGH.
Last name Greaney.
Like that?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry. They just gave you some extra work, but that's like he deserves.
That's okay. That's an easy.
He deserves to have his is correct.
Well, I already made the motion graphic, so that's correct. But yeah, it would be.
Do I have the right pictures?
Yeah.
Okay. Whew.
Sure I think Andrew Shackleford is who I called out for the Ambot, so maybe it's just in your template.
It's probably just a carryover. Okay. Slideshow. All right. You want to just go to? You want me to repeat or I'll just go. Who have you picked or something to that?
Yeah, we'll just go from the top.
All right. Okay, and who have you picked this go around, Josh?
So apologize in advance if I butcher the pronunciation here, but my elite choice this time in ground was Dara Greeny, and they have an incredible Astra Militarum force they put together. I think this is a similar long-time lurker, kind of first-time poster situation here, but the Astra Militarum done right, and we've seen this a couple. People have done this recently. Ted Lidgard being a standout for absolutely crushing Astra Militarum, but just the detail, the grit, the weathering, the facial expressions, the eye lenses, and some of the stormtroopers, things like that. Just a really, really nicely done army. And the Astra Militarum's not an army that's really ever had any appeal for me from a play collecting modeling side of things, but when they're done right, they just look so good. So I always appreciate somebody else who's put that effort in.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. That it's not something that typically appeals to me, but when you see it done this well, it's just like, I get that they are really, really cool. Just stunning work. And I mean, I'll tell you, these are smaller guys than Space Marines, and we'll get to that in hobby progress and how I'm really learning some new things. So yeah,
whole new scale.
So just incredible work. And then last but not least, Shell's Kiss is for David McIntosh. I think it's McIntosh, not Macintosh. And his Tyranids. And these purple and blue Tyranids with the guess who picked these, right? Shell. So Shell picked these. She
purple Tyranids.
Yeah, she and so we are looking at what to paint up for the Space Hulk, the multiplayer Space Hulk game, because we've bought that terrain from the Basement of Death guys. By the way, I have a gift here for you from those guys. Troy sent over some more stuff that he had found, and he realized, I didn't send this over to you, so he sent it over. And in there, he included what were two of the prizes that they were giving out at the Space Hulk thing, which is the miniature Space Hulk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, so you have one of those too. It's just like very tiny mission 3D printing thing. It's really cool. So we got one of those.
Oh yeah, thanks Troy. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. That's
really cool. Reason Shell liked these is because as we're looking at what color, she's like, I want to paint them this color, and I'm like, well, we can do a variation of this color. Like, I'm not gonna put this much effort into it because I want to whatever we're gonna paint those Gene Stealers and other Tyranids. I just want it to be very quick and just serviceable for the I'm not gonna.
It's for the experience, not right.
Yeah. So anyway, Shell very much liked this color scheme, but not just the color scheme. She liked the fact that the carapaces were wet looking, and I'm like, but mine are wet. She's all, but yours are all wet. I'm all, they're in a swamp. She's all, I don't like yours, and I'm like, okay, great, babe, thanks, appreciate that. So
That glossy kind of chitin though is a cool look with the mixed gloss matte.
Yeah.
Shell's been calling out a lot of Tyranids in her Shell's Kisses recently. You might be in trouble.
No. We're going to talk hobby progress here in a minute. And if you've been following us on any of our social media network stuff, you already know what's coming. So, okay. So let's get into it. Let's get into hobby progress, and we'll talk through
That's right.
this. I was a very busy beaver over the last 2.5 weeks. But let's start with you, Josh. What do you got here? Holy smokes. You've been doing some work.
Yeah. So I got my Primaris Impala, aka the Impulsor, done.
Yeah.
This is for the Sharkadons. This was the last model I needed for the 1,500 point list I had going on.
Nice.
I need to take better photography of this, but pretty happy with how it turned out overall. I went a little bit more volumetric with the kind of the lighting effect on that, so the panels have just a little bit more of that kind of dark to light happening on them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my sharks have been painting in progress for this was a 5th edition army started, so it's now 5 editions of the game it's spanned over, and I didn't want to deviate overly from the stuff that I painted 10 years ago, so I had to kind of rein it in a little bit, but still overall pretty happy. It's a slight evolution of the existing stuff, but it's still very tight and cohesive.
That's always
it was a lot of fun to pull together.
It's always a tricky call when you're doing that, because you still want it to match your previous stuff, but as we progress as hobbyists, you learn new skills and new techniques, and things change.
Yeah.
And I tend to settle on this is how this army is going to look, and I'm probably not going to change the recipe or format for how I do this army versus having a new army, right?
Yeah. Having 2 armies now that both the Necron army that I have and Sharkadons both started in 5th edition, so they're both much older armies at this point. So when I go to add new stuff to that, and part of it's kind of nice that I can take it easy, because I don't want these to overly stand out compared to the stuff that I was painting 10 years ago.
Right.
So for the approach, the Necrons especially, it's a pretty simple paint scheme, and that one is I can just kind of go on autopilot. I don't really have to think about anything, and it's easy because I know I'm painting lesser than I'm capable of, but it's cohesive with the rest of the force. So that there's the pros and cons to it. Obviously, each time I start a new project, a new army, like a Necromunda gang or something like that, is really where I'm trying to ramp up and push those progressions. Yeah. But when I'm matching something that's, I've got models from 10 plus years ago again that trying to keep it cohesive. Or if I do this one with a little bit more volumetric to it, wanted to escalate it a little bit, but still at least make it look cohesive with the rest of the force. So I think it worked out there.
The decals you have on here, these are custom decals you got?
Yeah, so for the majority of what I have are forge rolled ones on the rest of my army, but some of the larger ones I have are it's a custom decal printed by, I think it's Chapter Customizer, which is a sister company or sister branch of Fallout Hobbies.
Got it.
But they do have a shark specific theme, and a very Maori shark specific theme.
Yeah. I love it.
Decal. The decals are just a little bit thicker on these ones, so unfortunately, if you look closely, you can see just a little bit of the outline, even with all the micro set, so the decals themselves look good, but something about just the edge of that one I couldn't get to disappear. But overall, again, pretty happy.
They look great. They look great, man. It's great. It's a great model. All right, what else did you work on?
So we got together, as we'll talk about in games played, but played a game of Adeptus Titanicus. But because of some of the special things we did for that game, I decided to paint up a few of the Swarmer missile pods for a Warhound Titan, and these are the newer weapon kit that are released with Legions Imperialis in the box set. And I've had them, for 6-8 months, however long ago that came out now, but hadn't had a need to paint them for Legions Imperialis because I, already had so many Titans and weapons. but yeah, decided to get motivated and paint up the 2 missile pods just for this game. Mostly because I wanted some long range shield stripping, and we'll get into that in games played.
All right.
And then continuing the Legions Imperialis theme here, the 8mm Heresy, painting up, built, painted, and got the reds done. So the gold base coat and the reds on 8 Dreadnought drop pods and 2 Leviathan Dreadnoughts. And the Leviathans I'm very excited for because they add some of the abilities to actually destroy buildings.
Okay.
They can actually just like smash them with their claws and kick them, and they have melt lances. But the drop pods, sorry, my light is going crazy on me right now. The drop pods are going to be a really fun delivery system for dreadnoughts, and I have just a very kind of fast, aggressive, mobilized, very infantry heavy, but deploying assault troops out of Thunderhawks and deploying Terminators out of Spartans, and now deploying Dreadnoughts out of drop pods. I'm very excited for this. And again, this is the one addition that I'm making to the list that I had at Adepticon that I'm making, hoping to have done in time for Tacoma Open.
Okay, got it. Man, those dreads are so cute. They're so cute at 8mm.
The drop pods are incredible. Like the doors all articulate, like they open up. I'm really excited to be doing like hazard stripes when I get to do the detail painting in the next week or so here. Yeah. Just really, really fun and really well designed. Like it's been several years now since I built a 28mm scale drop pod, but I remember it being kind of just a pain.
It's a hassle.
Getting everything to line up, but these were a breeze. They went together so quickly, and I'm excited for what they add to the game as far as variety of play, but also I think they're just so far it's been a very fun process of building painting, and they're adorable. Like I can't say it any other way. They're adorable.
Okay.
Adorable death raining from orbit.
And what else?
Last but not least, we have my Eldar Combat Patrol. So this is the start of my Eldar force finally happening. New edition, new army. A little late on the new edition side of things here, but I've obviously been very busy with Legions Imperialis and Necromunda and things like that in the last 6 months. But the Combat Patrol event that I am going to be participating in at Tacoma Open again was a good motivation to get the new Eldar army going. This is Craftworld Xianshar, which is an existing canon Forge World, Craftworld, sorry, that Colin Ward developed a paint scheme for. So my paint scheme for this is very heavily inspired by the work that he's done in the past of just an absolutely gorgeous looking force. Its primary color is bone, kind of this like wraith bone color with orange and black accents. And the orange really just pops off that bone color, and black isn't really fighting with either one way or another. And then the gems and soulstones and things like that, I'm doing a nice kind of dark blue, which really helps complement the orange on that, offset nicely.
Nice. I'm looking forward to seeing the whole thing. Collins looks so good. So
I think it's going to be a really striking force, especially once I get to the jet bikes and vehicles again with that kind of that Hesh-Mex grid of the orange kind of fade orange to yellow.
Right.
This was really fun, just trying to get a lot more volume in the orange, especially orange. If you do orange pretty flatly, it's not that interesting of a color, but this orange is, it's actually 4 colors to get this orange. So if you look at it in person, you get a lot more of the kind of the gradient, the variety. It's really red underneath, and depending what angle you look at it, it's very, very different also. But I'm really happy with how it came out, and this has just been kind of a fun exercise in airbrush control.
What are the 4 colors you're using to get to that orange? Do you remember?
So the base of that, so everything is Eldar is interesting because I'm priming these black, but then I am I'm actually spraying everything white after priming it, because white primer is just not very good. So
I hate
so I'm using
white primer.
I'm using black primer and then painting white on top of that, because the black primer is really getting everything to stick. So black primer, white paint, and then I'm shooting from below the helmet a red color. I'm using Pro Acryl for everything for these. So it's a red base for kind of underlit to really get the shadows there. And then I'm doing a top down kind of just medium orange from the top. And then on top of that, just very concentrated in more of the tops. I'm getting, so I guess the orange is actually more of a zenithal, top down zenithal, but is getting some of that kind of side profile. And then I'm doing a yellow from directly top down on that. And then I'm doing a very kind of translucent orange on top of the yellow to kind of filter it up.
Filtered in.
So it's, the picture doesn't do it justice, but in person, very happy with how it's coming out.
Yeah, I'm having that problem too. Like, I've painted a few models and we'll talk about them, but then I'll take a picture and I'm like, this doesn't look how it looks. Like, And I know, going back to the primer, like I know that there are people that will say, oh, use this white primer, use Styler ends, use whatever. It's not that. It's, for me, it's well, one, finding a consistent primer in white, it seems to be an issue. But okay, let's even say I found that. Then it becomes any spec that I miss, like becomes glaring, like stands out glaring. So it's like I really want to, whereas black will tend to just fade into a shadow. I'm like, okay, I can get get away with a little bit more with a black for me, But again, I'm not trying to win any painting contests. I'm not, I'm just trying to make nicer looking playable models. So this looks fantastic, Josh. But I don't understand if I am either just my paints are not as smooth as other people's that I see online, or if they're better at taking pictures, or probably both, probably both. So
yeah, I was like, these pictures are just iPhone photos in my dark garage, so definitely not doing me any favors in that step. Like I just ran out of time to get the real camera set up with some nice light.
Yeah.
But yeah, in person, these are looking really good, and the base coats are in progress for the Wraith Lord, the rest of the Guardian unit. This was just kind of the test, the proof of concept.
Right.
Like Colin had already developed kind of a scheme, but he never painted Guardians, for example. So me figuring out how I want to apply that scheme and modify it, and I'm using all completely different recipe of colors. So I'm really, the recipe's mine, but I'm following kind of that paint by numbers, if you will, the guidelines of what Colin did. So
cool. Very cool.
So it's some figuring out, but I'm really, really happy with it. And again, I have a couple of weeks to get the rest of this Combat Patrol dialed in if I can. Again, if I run out of time, then I have 2 other Combat Patrols ready to go. But this was at least a good motivation to get this going. And then lastly, I don't have a picture of it because it's not that big of a deal, but started assembling the Age of Sigmar Spearhead, as we talked about in one of our recent Patreon bonus episodes.
Yeah.
So just start building some skeletons.
I think, who was it? Somebody reached out to me and was like, oh, do you want to split this? And I'm like, nope. No, I do not. Yeah. No, I do not. I need to steer clear of that. Because let me tell you what you can get accomplished in a few weeks.
That's right.
All right. So as I spoke before, Shell wanted to do Night Lords. I'd been working on some of her Night Lord stuff. But now I really began to focus in on vehicles and a few other things. So, and these are not in the particular order that we painted them in, but I completed 2 of her Forge Fiends. Forge Fiends are still, well, my Forge Fiend and 2 Mauler Fiends are still sitting unpainted, but I did complete her 2 Forge Fiends. She did the golds on one of them, like I did the initial, where it's most visible, and then she went in and completed it, because I'm not going to do this alone.
Nice.
It's her army. It's been kind of fun, like painting side by side and doing stuff. She did the smoke stacks and that kind of stuff. So it was a good time. She also wanted these. So a kill team of Night Lords had been painted by Caleb for her. And one of the things that Caleb did on the Greater Possessed in that kill team, because this was the older kill team, was he had done the skin like this blue, like these varying shades of blue. And she really, really liked that. So I got as close as I could to Caleb's recipe on all of the skin work on all of her models that are showing skin, to that blue. And it's like a light blue.
Demonic skin.
Yeah, and then like a dark blue wash over that, and then another, touching up a few light blues, and then even a 50-50 mix of white and light blue to kind of pull that off. But really happy with the way the Forge Fiends came out. The first thing I do on all these things is the purple coats, because she wants her Night Lords to have a purple look. The purple coats, and then the lightning, which as I progressed through this, I got better and better at doing. And
you've done a lot recently.
I've done a lot. Additionally, we completed 2 predators. She had built these predators. I did a little bit of sprue cleanup that she had missed on some of them, but she did. I did the first one, making sure that I showed her where the various golds and whatnot would go on it, and then she did the subsequent golds on the next one. But she also chose these this particular curved sprue that she wanted around the las cannon.
On the sponsons there.
Yeah, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because like this is gonna break. Like these spikes on chaos stuffed into." She's like, "No, I really want it." And I have to admit, it does look pretty cool. Like once it was done, it did look pretty darn cool. And but man, transporting these things,
you just need a tableware case to transport them with some magnets now.
That is correct. And at one point, like there's the front grills on the thing we had glued on, and then I had painted everything up. The grill was painted, so, it's metallic at that point, but not gold. And she goes, "Oh no, this one is put on upside down, so the skulls weren't on the top of the thing." And I said, "Okay." So I just snapped it right off, and she's like, "Oh my god!" I glued it back on. You can't even tell. It's done. Super easy to fix. So 2 predators. Yeah. So if you're keeping count so far, 2 Forge Fiends, 2 predators,
2 Forge Fiends, 2 predators,
a Land Raider. We had gotten her Land Raider in at the Games Workshop store. Got it assembled, and then I painted all this up. This was actually the first vehicle I did, and I was super happy with the way the lightning came out on it. It looks just fantastic. Yeah. The vehicle itself looks great. It looks intimidating on the field.
On the lightning, are you doing the kind of the white hazy spray first, and then doing it's actually kind pink. Of the fine detail lightning?
It's actually pink. It's like the haze is like over the purple, and then
which filters really nicely with the white on top.
And then when I go in, I am doing very slowly, like each kind of bolt of lightning as I kind of zigzag it around and it's interesting because I went in for this one. I went in and I drew on the vehicle in pencil first. Like, here's where the paths are going to be, so that I can say, and then I went in and just did the airbrush, which I am getting much better at the control of my airbrush as well. And so I was very happy with the way this one came out. And this is all what Caleb taught us how to do. Yeah. So I did the whole Land Raider. I think it came out fantastic.
Looks fantastic. Yeah.
I like the blue lights as well, the OSL headlights. Like everything about it is super happy with how this has come out.
Just reminded me of your seed shield on your Vindicator with your headlights.
Yes.
Your little Easter egg.
Yeah. So my seed shield on my Vindicator. I don't know if I called that out in the last episode, but like it's really funny because the headlights are blocked by the seed shield. There's like these little flaps that could come down in theory, and the headlights could shine through. But so what I did was I sprayed the headlights, this OSL kind of headlights, and then on the inside of the seed shield I sprayed like they're shining the lights on the inside, which are totally pointless. So I was just being silly.
That's a fun Easter egg.
Yeah. I also completed her Rhino. So I got her Rhino completed as well. Taught her a little bit about how to do skulls, and so we went through and I made her do all the skulls on the Rhino as well.
Oh, cool!
And the chain, like the metallic chains and the
Yeah.
and the spikes and stuff.
I can't state how awesome it is that you guys are enjoying this together and like painting side by side and kind of tag teaming this project, that just bring it to life and spending a bunch of quality time time and then you're going to be
nice.
Like playing games and already have played.
Yeah, it's been super nice.
That's awesome.
I would say, I mean, realistically, I'm doing 90% of the work, and then she's, but just that amount, like especially on the Forge Fiend, it was like, I don't want to do another bunch of gold on this Forge Fiend. I'm all, here's the Forge Fiend I did, you do the rest of it, and it was like, oh, okay. So if I can give her like a pattern, she can replicate the pattern fairly easily, which is great. And she does a great job. She does a great job on it. Like, she's very good with small detail stuff. So got the Rhino done. And then 2 obliterators, got both of these done for her list too. And again, these have a lot of skin on them. I'm not a huge fan of painting. Like, I love the concept of like the mechanical to the organic stuff, but man, painting it is just painful to me. And going through this, they definitely went through an ugly phase at one point, but by the time I was done, I was very happy with the way these 2 models came out. They're very much in keeping with the rest of the force, and they look great. They look fantastic. So then I also painted up a squad.
Wait, there's more.
A squad of 5 of her possessed. Again, using that blue skin, and this is where there's a lot more of that blue skin on these guys than even before. So I really, there's multiple layers to the skin and highlights and stuff. And I think it really, like, by the time I got to these models, like, my ability to do that skin, which is kind of replicating. So it's interesting. Like, I've always said I'm a real good paint by numbers guy. Like, you tell me, okay, this thing, then this thing, this thing, I'll do it. And it comes out great. When I did the skin on my original Forge Fiend, I reached out to Colin, who had done my 1,000 Suns Forge Fiend. I'm like, how did you accomplish this? And he said, okay, well, here is the video I did that shows the exact colors and, for his Patreon at the time. I said, okay. So I replicated that. So now I'm doing another skin, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, but it's very different colors. But I basically use the techniques I learned from Colin to pick the colors, and achieve an effect that we really like. And so I completely did all these guys. Nice. And they came out great. It was a lot of work. I wanted to. So
you're spraying the purples first. Are you then airbrushing the blues also, or like with a mask over, or covering your hand?
All the skin is hand done, and then layers, and then So
I've been talking to Dan Osborne a good amount, so I've actually been I've picked some up. I haven't used it yet, but some liquid like mask.
Yes.
Which I'm very tempted, especially for some of the Eldar stuff that I'm doing, but also I have a couple of Titans left that I want to paint, and I want to do all the panels first, but then just hit the trim with an airbrush, because the trim is by the most kind of like tedious time spent on Titans.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very much looking forward to using this liquid mask and hoping it is the
I would love to see
the solution of just.
I saw them peeling some of it off. I saw, I think, Sky peeling some of it off on a video, because Dan went and taught up at Herrick Games, and they painted.
Right.
I got to get into one of those classes again. Like, it's just the stuff they come out of there with just looks fantastic. So, and then while I was doing the airbrushing and the lightning bolts on the 2 Predators, I went ahead and did a Helldrake as well, because Shell really wanted a Helldrake. I promised her up and down I am not going to do the edging on this Helldrake.
She gets to do all the gold on that one.
All her. That'll be all her. All the metallics will be her. But I have done all the base coats on that thing, top and bottom.
Nice. Yeah. That'll look really cool when it's done.
I didn't do all the necessarily. I did a few lightning bolts on the bottom, but not quite as much of the lightning effect on the bottom as I did on top, because you never see it. And she was like, "Oh, you didn't do it on the bottom."
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
Shell, nobody's gonna look at that. Like, I don't care. I also don't do lightning on the bottom of tanks. So why would I bother?
What?
So, a little bit of a cheat there. So
just really phoning it in here.
So couple of things I want to mention here as I move on to the next thing. So then halfway through doing all that stuff, I went back to a Chaos Knight that I had painted up a while ago and started putting decals onto the Chaos Knight because I was having airbrush problems. My airbrush had gotten gummed up. I owned like 4 airbrushes, 2 of which were like non-serviceable. The other one was having issues, and the one I was using, which was working great, all of a sudden stopped working. I'm like, I don't understand what I've done. Have I damaged it? What's going on? And then I was talking to I went and bought a sonic cleaner because I was like, I'll try to clean them early and see what happens. But in the meantime, I was talking to Austin Lynn, and Austin Lynn was like, well, I use I just give it a bath in isopropyl alcohol and then clean it up. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been using isopropyl alcohol. That's right, I ran out and I've been just using water. And so I went and bought some isopropyl alcohol. You need isopropyl alcohol if you're using an airbrush, because as soon as I cleaned it with that, and
certainly helps.
And I cleaned out, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of gunk in here. And like, I did a very thorough cleaning of the airbrush. Additionally, I have a special cleaning kit that I forgot I had for Harder and Steenbeck specifically, and it includes a tool that allows you to sit it into the nozzle and scrape out the nozzle very carefully. Yeah, and man, there was gunk coming out of there, and I was like, "Oh, I see what I've done. I've just neglected the proper care."
It's just layers building up.
Yes, and so lesson learned. I went and I spent like 2 hours cleaning every airbrush I own. Guess what? They all work very well now.
They're all fantastic.
Yeah, amazing, amazing how that works. Yeah. So proper care and maintenance of your airbrush, people. If you're having problems, make sure you're using isopropyl alcohol. I do about a 50-50 split of that in water, filtered water, to clean out the airbrush now. And boy, it's working so much better. And and the other thing is making sure you use a mixed medium in if you're doing any filters with like Army Painter speed paints or contrast paints. Make sure you throw a mixed medium in there. I think I do about a third of mixed medium to what I'm doing for me specifically. Make sure you mix that in there really well. It keeps it from gumming up a bit in your brush as well. That helps a ton too. So
yeah.
Really important. The other thing I want to mention is each time I started a new set of things, like in particular when I moved on to I'm now going to start painting from Black Legion. I'm now going to start painting shells, Night Lords. I went through, and we've talked about clearing the mechanism before and cleaning up, like I cleaned up my whole painting area. I pulled out the paints that I use, which is a lot on shells, Night Lords, right? I have like a series of purples and pinks. I have the whites, I have the off-whites, I have the blues for the skin, I have the metallics, the various metallics we use. And I pull all that aside and I organize it on my desk, not necessarily like in there, like I have these paint racks, but I pull them all out of the paint racks and I have like, okay, here's all the blacks, here's the browns, here's the purples, here's the, the lighter colors, here's the metallics. And I had them all organized so that I found going through this process, a lot of time is wasted. Like, where did I put that black? And I'm looking around for the black. Like I got into the habit of I'd use the black, I'd put the black back where it was, and then do my work, and then on to the next thing, and then where's the black? Well, it's right there. Like, and I started training myself to make sure, like I was finishing a thing and I would put it back where it belonged. And so that sped me up a tremendous amount. Like I cannot emphasize how much time I didn't waste looking around for the colors that I needed. I also went through and documented in an email to myself every color and how it's used on every part of every model, and then mailed it to myself. So I now have like a ongoing recipe. So when I go back to shells, Night Lords at some point, I just pull up and go, what exact colors are those? This one, this one, this one. Boom, I've got it. So I'm really starting to get what I would say methodical or anal about where documenting this stuff and where I'm
documenting the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
I do similarly with notes on my iPhone, because it also shares through iCloud, so I can access it from my iPad, my computer, my phone, etc. for recipes and things like that. Yeah, super useful.
Yeah. So I cannot emphasize enough, if you're painting large projects and multiple large projects, documenting this stuff is going to save you a ton of time in the past. Like, to the point where I was like, I use this Vallejo Model Air with this number. I use this, Army Painter with, this title. I went through every single one and documented the process for all of them. So I can replicate that till the cows come home now. And as I was doing that, I started working on finally my Sisters of Battle. And so, again, documented what I thought the schemes would be for each of the things that I was going to have to paint. And then I went in when I practiced on my first sister model herself, okay, that didn't work, or this, if I add this works better. So I did those things. And then went and
you had it painted in your head, but then like the logistics of, okay, how do we actually bring that to life now? Some things are going to change a little bit.
100% correct. And so with the vehicles, I'm going definitely using techniques I learned from Caleb, which I haven't really, I've always struggled with the panel lighting on tanks and stuff. Even after taking his class, for some reason, I just couldn't, grab it in my head. And so I went back to when he was teaching Shell and I to do the Night Lord stuff, and I had photos, and I printed out those photos and set them up there, so I knew like kind of what areas of the vehicle to hit. And now it all makes a lot more sense. Like, having done it, it makes a lot more sense to me. So I've completed 2 rhinos and 2 immolators with just the base coats. Now the red for me is such a particular color too. Like, it has to be like a certain red for me to really like it. And so the way I work up to this is I start with a black undercoat. I go to a tan for some of the lighting. Then I go to a white, and then I filter slaughter red from Army Painter speed paint as a filter through it. Yeah. And as you layer on that over multiple layers, it darkens. It becomes a very rich red. And it's kind of a warm,
great looking red there.
I'm super happy
very,
with it.
very warm, very rich. Yeah. It looks really good.
So I did the base coats on those 4 tanks. I'm going to move on to the metallics next. Again, following my plans here. But then I painted up one Sisters model, just working through the various, how do I paint whites, like, and make them look smooth, and how do I do black enough that I like it, and how do I do the various leather pouches, what do I want the hair to look like, how do I do the hair, how do I do all the fleur-de-lis to make them white but not, so just going through the whole scenario. I did paint up one sister model. And
got to do the test model.
And I got to say, they are small. Going back to our comments about the Imperial Guard, they are very tiny compared to Space Marines. I was pretty happy with the way the face came out. I'll get better at it. I think this is my first model, so I got the eyes white, but I'm also very hesitant to even bother putting a dark dot there for the eyeballs because it is so small. I started using for the first time ever the goggles thing that I bought that has the interchangeable magnification things. Yep. I had to. It is just too tiny. Even doing the various fleur-de-lis. But overall, pretty happy with the way the first one came out. It's some airbrush work and then a lot of hand paint stuff. But I love the red that she came out. I love the whites came out.
Looks
good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's gonna be solid. But this army is gonna take me a long time to paint. I pulled out 9 more sisters because I want to finish one squad, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna take me forever.
Here we go.
But I'm gonna get faster at it. That's the other thing. I mean, I think ongoing practice, you get faster at it. So, and I'm in love with the army.
Such a striking force.
Yeah. I'm just in love with
it's going to look incredible when it's all together. Yeah, that's amazing.
I hope so.
Hopefully you love playing them too.
If you're watching the video, you can see in the background like a picture of like an example, right? That I'm like I have up there for I've like printed out pictures and I'm like, okay, this is how I want to achieve this. This is where I want to do.
Got your reference material.
All my reference material set up. So so good stuff. So that was me. It was a lot. Like this has probably
you've been busy.
One of the most productive.
This is a 2-week period. Also,
I think it was about 2.5 to 3 weeks since we recorded last. Like we were kind of ahead of schedule there a little bit, so I'd say 2.5 weeks. I did a lot in 2.5 weeks. I felt like Dave Taylor on his show. They just kept like, oh yeah, here's all this stuff I'm getting done.
And then.
Yeah, so great stuff for me. I think you're going to see more Sisters of Battle stuff from me coming up. Shell's probably going to want to add more Night Lords, and I have some Black Legion stuff to do.
You hit the 2,000 point list for Shell's Night Lords, right? So you can take a little break and then add stuff as you want to.
The only thing missing from her 2,000 points is her Felgor Beastman, and that's all on her.
Okay,
that's all on her.
Yep.
Like I'm done.
Show her the ways of Slapchap.
I will show her the ways, but she can do them. She's like, I can't do this alone. I go, you can. I will sit here with you and show you how each step of the way, but I'm not doing these. Like this is all you. That's all you. I'll do the bases.
That's good.
None of it needs to be airbrushed. Yeah. It's all slap chop. It's all speed paints and then some metallics, and it's super. And they look great.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's just 10 Beastmen away from 2,000 points.
Yeah. Yeah. But she's well over the 50.
That's awesome.
Mark. And then we have some other things we're adding to, like 2 more obliterators. Blah blah blah. So
yeah. A Helldrake at some point.
And
you guys have been prolific.
She's done
a quick army.
She has done a great job. It's a quick army that looks. I swear to God, it's done, and I go like, this looks better in my Black Legion.
It's good.
It's just because I think my skills are ramping up, and so super happy with the way things. So I'm very excited to get Sisters on the table because I think it looks like a fun army to play. It's more nuanced than a lot of stuff, and I think it's very different than anything I've played before. So. Okay, let's talk games played. Once we got Shell's army done, we did a learning game between Shell and I. She played her Night Lords. I played my Black Legion. It was almost a mirror match. Almost.
Nice.
I had a squad of Havocs that she doesn't have. She has an extra Predator tank that I don't have. I'm not even running Predators, so she had 2 Predators, but it was very close, and this was done intentionally because I wanted her to see from both sides of the table, like, okay, now you know what this kind of unit does. Now you're gonna see, you get to use that unit, or you've used that unit. Now you get to see what it feels like getting that unit used against you. So we had a really fun game. It took place over 2 days. I think we take for granted. Having played now, you've played way longer than I have, but I'm coming up on 18 years, I think, of playing this game. How natural and for us it is. Like, okay, you go on the next phase. Here's the thing. You do your thing. You roll this. Your toughness is higher than this. I need a 5. Okay, and it's a lot for somebody new to take in. And Shell is not she's not. She's very smart. She's a very smart individual. She. As a teacher, she does work I could never do. She plays very complicated board games, and like you've seen, like she adapts to these things.
She's a shark.
She's brutal. But I could tell we got to the end of round 2, and I'm like, "You want to take a break?" And she's like, "Yeah." I could tell her brain was full of like all the information she could take at that time. So we played over 2 days, and again, total learning game. As we moved through each thing, she's like, well, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look. One of the things I focus on is if there's a unit and it can do nothing, it can't shoot at anything else but this one thing, you might as well get it out of the way, and then we talked a lot about target prioritization and, but a lot of it was just figuring out the mechanics for her. Like, and she's finally got it. Like it took her a while to figure out and I go, okay, you're shooting this. What's your strength? My strength is 9. Okay, well, the toughness of this thing is 7. So what do you need to And she'd be like, 4, no, 3s. Okay, yes. And so we'd work through the whole thing. She got to see like her Demon Prince in action. And a lot of times she'd be like, well, I don't know which one I should shoot at. And I go, well, what do you want to shoot at? She go, well, if it was you, what would you shoot at? And I go, well, okay, let me walk you through my thought process, which is not always the best, but here's what I'm thinking. And so, I basically talked myself into a loss, but that was not the point. We didn't play with secondary objectives. We just
played a classic learning game.
Yeah, we just played with the 4 primary objectives. But she had given up. She's like, "You've totally won," and I'm like, "You still got a round to go. Like, don't give up till the end." And then like she saw it swing, and I go, "See, if you do this and then this, I can't respond now. I've already scored." And you win. And she's like, oh, okay. So like it kind of all like dawned on her. But overall, I think she had a really fun time in the game. I showed her how I got my Terminators out to deal with something. I go, but now my problem is my Terminators are all the way over here and they're sitting on an objective to hold this objective. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Their job is to kill things. And so she was able to get her Terminators out, slaughter a bunch of my guys. I think she had a lot of fun. Now, that being said, she is awesome. A Tuttle, albeit through marriage, and her dice rolls
how did the dice
terrible. They were terrible. No. There were times it was just like, get used to it, Shell. This is why I threatened to quit dice games at one point. But it was really fun, and it was really great to see the army go from, the painting stage, the assembly to painting stage to on the table. And what was great is every time we'd finish a unit, like she's got a part of the cabinet set aside for the Night Lords. I'd be like, okay, this unit's done. Come out here. You get to put it in the cabinet, and she'd be like, oh, and she'd like set it in the cabinet. It was very fun as a couple to do.
Got her own dedicated case for parade orders. That's fantastic.
Dedicated case, dice, the whole 9 yards. She's all in. She's very happy with the army. So so am I.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so then I played Brett down at the Guild House. Brett is a member of the Fault Line 40K group. He was the previous president, but has now stepped down after 4.5 years. It's supposed to be a 2-year gig, and he did it for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And he looks a little shocked. So Brett was running a Kroot / Tau list. And he had a couple legend unit or two in there as well. Against my Black Legion. It was a 1,500 point game. I had no idea what to expect. Never played against Kroot. I haven't played against Tau in forever.
Did he actually have Tau, or was it a full Kroot army?
No, it's mostly Kroot, and then like a couple Tau, like a crisis suit, the thing with the railgun on it, the big one with the railgun on it, and the
the broadsides or the tank.
A tank. The hover tank. I can't remember what it was.
I'm blanking on the name of that
Orca,
one.
The Devilfish? No. Anyway.
Devilfish is the transport.
I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. I'm blanking.
It'll come to me. But at one point he's like, well, I go, what's the strength on it? He's like, strength 20 or whatever. I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no.
Okay.
One shot, strength 20, AP -5 or something. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's what it does.
It also misses. So anyway.
Oh, yeah.
We had a very fun game. Brett is a great guy. We're having a miniatures gaming day pretty soon when Travis is up here. I've invited Brett over to play. He's going to come over and meet the group and stuff. But yeah, cool. Kroot were no joke. The Kroot were no joke. Like, they are very synergistic. You have to do a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
To get them to work. But my army did pretty good damage. But in the end, I ended up losing this game, which for me, kind of sucked because I was in a state where I was on a win streak, and then this came to a screeching halt. But man, it was fun, and I made him pay for it. Like, it was a close game. I did a lot of damage, and I'll talk about that.
Those are the best games.
I'll talk about that in my next game against Bryce. But it was super fun. This is the first game I've lost my Land Raider in. It's the first game I've had my Land Raider destroyed in. Is that true? No, I think I lost them in the last game too. It's the second time I've lost Land Raider. It's a pretty durable unit though. It spends a lot of time on the table doing damage. So
many wounds and a 2-up save and high toughness. And
Yeah, it does its work. Super
They feel
fun.
right.
It was a super fun game. It was one of the highlights was I ended up destroying, I think whatever that tank was. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. It'll come to me right after we take a break. I destroyed the tank. It exploded and killed his like ethereal that was standing near it. So,
nice.
So I was like, all right, well, I'll take it. It was a pretty good kill. So we played a good game there that evening. It's always a fun group down there. Every game I've had so far has been really fun. Then last night, which I threw this in because last night I played against Bryce again and his Tyranid swarm.
Oh yeah, last minute edition.
Now, if I told you last time, like I just mauled Bryce like right in round 2. Tyranids have gotten a little bit of an upgrade since then. They're +1 strength within synapse and stuff. They got
Hammerhead gunship.
Thank you. So Bryce rocks out and he's got the key to Tyranids, and I remember reading this in a White Dwarf once, was if you deploy your army on the table and your opponent goes, how am I going to kill all that stuff? You're halfway to victory. This was the case.
The psychological aspect.
This was the case. Yeah.
The game.
When Bryce deployed his army, I'm like, oh my god! And we played the new Pariah Nexus missions on this.
Oh yeah, nice.
So some very interesting stuff. Actions that had to be taken to get to accomplish certain things. The table deployment was interesting and very easy to figure out. So overall, pretty happy with the way that went. But as usual, my secondary missions I draw are always just complete garbage, and so I really struggled in that degree. Again, the thing I noticed in this game, he got into close combat very quickly. Like in round 2, he was locking down a bunch of my stuff in close combat. Fortunately, monstrous creatures can fire out of close combat. Again, a super friendly game where there was a point where my Land Raider was locked in close combat with some guys, but I had guys that could, it was locked in close combat with a monstrous creature, but I had guys that could shoot that monstrous creature. And initially I was like, I'm going to use the Land Raider to shoot this other thing over here, even though I'm shooting it one less, capability. And Bryce is like, think about this. Like, you want to kill the monstrous creature on the Land Raider first, then that frees up the Land Raider to shoot at 3s to the other thing. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it was very helpful as we were both kind of working our way through various tactics. But man, he was into me so fast and locking stuff down, but I was healing units. And then once I started engaging him, like I started just slaughtering him. And this is the thing I've noticed with my Black Legion list is early on in the game, I'm not scoring a lot of points. I have to it's funny. We went to this Australian football game and there was this guy in front of me that was talking about the Australian team just grinding out their win. And he'd always, if Craig's listening, I kept mimicking the guy afterwards. He'd be like, you got to grind it out. You just got to grind it out. And that's how I feel like my army is. It's like, initially I'm going to do a little bit of damage. I'm going to take some punch. I'm going to give up scoring early to hopefully, outlast that, damage enough stuff that I'm able to earn up points in the later rounds and take a win.
Yeah. Rely on your elite durability.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what happened this game, unfortunately, was I was just locked in too long to be able to come back. We ended up calling it, I think, at the bottom of round 3. Because it was going kind of late, and he was ahead by so many points. And I actually thought about doing the secret mission thing. And I think if it had gone round 5 and everything had gone my way, I might have been able to eke out a win, but I forfeited. I was just like, you've really got a big leg up on me at this point. But by the end of the game, like once that turn started happening, like I'm taking a bunch of punishment early, but then I start dealing punishment back. I was just ripping his units to pieces.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, even Legionnaires in close combat against Gaunts, like I'm slaughtering like a lot of Gaunts.
Right. Yeah.
They're base
you
3,
get a lot of attacks.
Base 3 attacks each, and then my aspiring champion has 4 attacks with a power weapon. I mean, like, that's a bunch of dead Gaunts just from a 5-man unit, especially when I'm dark pacting them and then throwing them in there, occasional plasma gun goes off and kills my guy, but those things happen in chaos.
Always be overcharging.
always. Why not? But again, Land Raider survived the whole game. I was able to destroy a bunch of stuff. Once my Demon Prince got into the fight, like he was just ripping through, creatures with his demonic destruction. And by the end of the game, though, like I said, we called it at round 3. Good game to Bryce. I think he handily was owning me in the secondary objective market. The interesting thing is I've realized tabling your opponent doesn't mean you win.
No, yeah.
Intent that I can't find anything that says it does. Like it says whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. There's nothing about, you've been tabled. I think I could have tabled Bryce, but I was so far behind on points. Like I would have had to table him and be on several objectives and have achieved the secondary, the secret objective and been on objective markers. And then if it all went right, I might have won by 2 points. But I think Bryce
the advantage of tabling your opponent is they're not gaining points at that point, so it just gives you a chance to catch up.
Right?
No victory just for tabling.
But by the end of the game, he had 3 or 4 units left on the table, partial units left on the table, and I had lost my obliterators. I had lost. There was one point where I tried to run my obliterators up to perform my first secondary objective, which was sabotage this terrain piece. And I moved it. He's like, well, I Overwatch. And I'm like, yep. Yeah. And then he killed the obliterator. I'm like, all right, well,
oh, no.
That happens, But again, the tide was turning, but it didn't turn fast enough, I think. I learned a lot from it. So good game. And Bryce is, first off, great opponent, but also his Tyranids are so good looking. So good looking.
Yeah, gorgeous army.
All right, that's enough about me. What about you? You played Brian.
I did. I played a game of 40K. This was a 1,500 point game of 40K.
Yeah. I love this. If you're watching the video, I love this picture of Brian.
This is my call. We bring different energies to the table.
Yes, you do.
We played 1,500 points of Sharkadons against his Brian's World Eaters, and this was a super fun game. Brian and I, historically, have always had really, really close games, and I think the maybe one exception in the 10 years we've been playing pretty regularly against each other, they've always been some of the closest, tightest games that come down to the last few rolls and clutch dice. So we were both playing these armies very assault centric with a little bit of shooting support. So we got into combat very early. I think that we had turn one charges for both of us.
Wow.
Well, I had scouts that infiltrate, and I definitely need to relearn how to play scouts because right now they're just getting slaughtered, especially with
It's too bad Brian.
Let me tell you, World Eaters
looks so terrible.
Fast.
It's too bad Brian doesn't know how to paint. Oh my gosh, he's such a big painter.
Great looking army. It was a beautiful game. Two I think really nice looking armies clashing together and just giant kind of pits of death as we were both just trying to get in there. I definitely realized through playing this game that I think I'm trying to play Marines on hard mode because I really want to play them as an assault army, and they are just not designed to do that. So it's still fun. Learned a lot through the game. Had a really fun game.
How much bigger his guys are than your scouts? They are intimidating looking.
Those are I think the greater are 8 bound. So there are guys that have 8 demons bound inside of them, and they're just super roid berserkers. Awesome. Pretty cool. Really fun game. Great theme. Great looking army. Really good back and forth. We were doing the Leviathan deck, so tactical objectives with the Leviathan. The one thing we came into that, which as far as we could tell was okay, because I think they clarified this more in the new Pariah Nexus deck, is that Brian, and this actually kind of changes how the game would end up turning out one way or another, is that Brian was able to fire pistols with berserkers that were engaged in combat. For one of the things is if you're eligible to shoot, which you are eligible to shoot with pistols in combat, if you forego shooting pistols, you get to deploy teleport homers, or I think it was teleport
in the new one, I don't think you can even be engaged in combat to take the action.
Yeah. So I think the new deck I'm curious to check that out. I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet, but I think it has just clarified a lot of those things and made actions like a very specific thing, which I think was the main purpose of that.
It lists the action out like a strategic objective. Like it the way it shows it makes a lot of sense. It's well written.
Okay,
it's well written.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. So we had a couple of really, really key moments in this game. I've got this big charge with my sharks. This is my assault intercessor unit dumping out of the Land Raider into his berserkers, and got this massive charge off and ended up, killing 8 out of 10 of them just on the charge. So really good charge out of that, because that's the one assault unit that actually felt like it did what it was supposed to. And then, so he has this character, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but it's essentially a character that he added into a unit of berserkers, which gives them always strikes first. Okay. So when my captain, Terminator captain,
by the way,
and Lightning Claw captain charge into this unit of berserkers that always strike first, my Terminators just get butchered.
Yeah.
I think I lost 3 just on that first wave of attacks before they even get to do anything, and I'm the one who charged, so then I just don't have the weight of numbers to bring his guys down. So
strikes first is such a powerful ability. Like it's so good. Especially
on a really good assault unit like that. Like berserkers are really good. They're super fast. They want to charge if they charge, or if you charge them with always strikes first, they're just as happy. They just go off and are just murdered my dedicated assault.
And every subsequent round, they're basically striking first in the charge phase.
Always going first.
Yeah. I'm actually so afraid to strike first. If I know a unit has strike first, I just shoot it. I'm just like, I'm not going to go get involved in that mess.
What's interesting with berserkers, it's a really cool mechanic, but if you shoot them and end up killing anybody, the unit actually moves
closer
towards the closest.
Yep.
The closest thing. So berserkers, like if you kill them, which is super thematic, they end up just moving closer, and they can actually end up in engagement range. Yeah. So there's a couple times it's like, oh, I can't shoot them right now because if I kill this guy, it gets them here, which puts them on the objective. But I've got the OC in my favor right now, and I can't risk pulling them into this combat. So it's just a really fun kind of tactical back and forth.
There's a Tyranid formation that does the same thing with the gaunts and stuff. Nice. You shoot them and they just go closer. You're like, oh. So
if you're watching the video, you'll see just multiple massive piles of combats happening. This is the end result of that kind of first charge from my chaplain and assault intercessors coming out. Got
very
killed
cool.
8 of the 10 berserkers there. I had a predator that it was in my backfield and absolutely refused to die, and everything that Brian had for his tactical objectives were contingent upon this predator dying, and it did not. So it's like 3 turns of him like, I'm going to cash in, I'm going to cash in, I'm going to cash in. It just refused to die until the very end. There was a really fun moment in the middle where my Land Raider was just kind of tanking everything, holding the middle. It has a pretty high objective control.
Yeah.
So I was able to just kind of park it right next to the objective.
Is it 5? And objective control 5?
I think it's 5. Yeah.
Yeah. They're good.
See, at the time he only had the 2 berserkers and then I think the demon prince coming in. So I had the objective on that. And just because of the physical footprint of the Land Raider, he wasn't able to get his guys within 3 inches for the berserkers that charged it.
And listen, I love demon princes. Like I saw something earlier in Chaos forum on Reddit, and people were talking about how garbage demon princes are. I don't believe it. Like on the charge, they're getting that demonic assault, which they can do a maximum of 6 mortal wounds. Yeah, they're not great at destroying vehicles because even a corn marked one, I think maximum strength 10 on like a strike, but but man, they will obliterate units. Like I have people running from my demon prince. Like they are terrifying on the field. So I
cower.
Again, I'm not playing tournaments. I don't really care about that stuff. But as a unit, I love throwing them into combat. Again, unless I'm fighting something that strike first.
World Eaters have their cool mechanic. Instead of their, dark packs and things like that, you roll 8 dice at the beginning of each battle round, and then you get to like assign these dice, kind of like how Warcry does it. Like if you have doubles of this value or something like that, you get to unlock this ability or this ability. So one of the ones that I think Brian was able to get were lethal hits. So 6s to hit ended up auto woundings, which is obviously helps a lot when hitting vehicles that have super high toughness. So his Demon Prince did end up killing my Land Raider, but the Land Raider exploded and killed the Demon Prince in the process, which was super fun. Always really cool when that happens. So this ended just a lot of back and forth. At the end of the game, I think we each had maybe 6 models left on the board. So just brutal game. And this was a 76-79 victory for the World Leaders.
That is super close.
Yeah, super close game. And again, largely, I think because of that pistol action deploying teleport homers, which I don't think is to what you're saying doesn't exist in the new
it's been changed
Pride Nexus cards. It's more specific, so that ended up like determining the outcome of the game. But super close game, super fun, absolutely brutal, but
that's
very
awesome.
very.
I'm glad Brian got to get out and play because like. I rarely see that guy.
It was his first game in 6 months, so he was feeling desperate. So it was really really good to get a game in. Yeah.
All right, then you played up at Herrick Games.
Yeah, we played a big old team game of Adeptus Titanicus, and this was 5,000, like about 5,100 points per side. Yeah. So we each had a 2,000 point list for each player. So each side was 4,000 points.
That's a lot.
But then we brought I brought my War Master, and Brian brought his War Master Iconoclast. So
just
then
to add on to it.
We're like, let's see these guys in a big game like this, kind of in their element where they should really, really shine. So the reason I was talking about painting the Warhounds with Swarmer missiles earlier is because the War Master is not great at stripping shields. It's really good at killing Titans. Right. So having a Warhound that's dedicated to this guy just shoots 10 missiles that are rapid and can get extra hits and things like that just makes it really really good for stripping shields down. So
this game was you and Ivan versus
me and Ivan. Yeah. Versus Brian and Dan Osborne while he was in town teaching the class. Dan and Brian both play Legio Furians, so they had a nice large combined force of traitorous Legio Furians, and then Ivan plays Legio Volpa, which are very like cornate, possessed, demon infused, get out there. And then with my Legio Zestobiex, also I've leaned into the kind of corrupt Titan, things like that. So this is all chaos on chaos, corrupted Titan, super fun, perfect. Super brutal. So many, as you can see if you're watching the video, there are so many Titans on the board here.
That is a lot.
I think we had 5 engine kills turn 1, which is just because there's so much weight of fire. Yeah, so much weight of fire. So many things are dying, and also there just are so many Titans on the board.
Just for those who don't play Adeptus Titanicus, like an engine kill typically takes a lot of work to like destroy a Titan.
It takes quite a bit to kill a Titan. So when you're getting multiples of those and fun chain reactions, we did have a couple reactor overloads that turned into the large cascading reactions. Didn't do as much damage as we had hoped in those kind of cascading explosions. But we were playing with destructible terrain, so at the end of the game, about half the terrain of the board had been demolished from Titans exploding. I would say the only downside of this game is that we had lots of results of laid low, which is basically your Titan just kind of dies where it's standing, and nothing really interesting happens. Maybe half the engine kills we got ended up having that happen. Kind of the highlight of this game was Ivan just runs everything forward because he basically has only melee Titans. He's not shooting anything. So he just wants to run forward. He wants to charge. They're really good when they get into combat. So turn 2, he ends up running up his Warlord, which will come up in the photos in a picture or two. But he's running up his Warlord at Titan with an intention of engaging Brian's Iconoclast, and the War Master Iconoclast is kind of the epitome of a melee Titan. It is the biggest, baddest thing that Titanicus has to offer. But Ivan was able to get the charge off first. It was turn 3. We got very lucky. I rolled a 2 for priority, and Brian rolled the 1. So we were able to sneak priority off my terrible roll and get the charge of the Warlord charging into the War Master Iconoclast.
Dude, his
and
models, Dan Osborne's models look so good.
Yeah,
and
so
Ivan's,
the ones in video
Ivan's,
right now are Ivan's.
Yeah, and Ivan's the posing on Ivan's
corrupted conversions. Yeah, this was a gorgeous looking game. We were using some of my 3D printed terrain, but also Ivan's stuff that is incredible terrain, incredible painter, incredible modeler. Ivan also being a Golden Demon winner, he knows what he's doing,
and a really good player too.
Yeah,
he's a triple threat.
Super fun game. Yeah, exactly. He is the triple threat indeed. So he ended up getting that so Warlord charge went off and ended up killing the War Master Iconoclast off the charge, which was surprising but really cool. And then just a couple good chain reactions of explosions happening. Super fun game. It ended up going super late. We got a late start, and then it was a big game, so we didn't play it out to the finality, but we were all just there to have fun and roll a bunch of dice.
How many hours was that going at this point?
I think we played for about 3 hours, and could have played another hour to like the proper conclusion of the game, but we were all we weren't really paying attention on the scores and things like that. The mission that we got ended up just being kill each other. We're like, perfect, let's go. Because we're doing an open engine war deck. So it was just here in this picture you can see all the craters and ruins of what's left of half the terrain that was just replacing things. Super fun game, really enjoyable. Here's the that Warlord swinging into the Iconoclast and just absolutely wrecked house.
I like that Ivan's used some Adeptus Titanicus vehicles on his bases. Yeah,
he's got the Legions Imperialis bases there, tying in the world leaders to the Legio.
Legions Imperialis.
It was a great looking game. There's so much banter, lots of like inside jokes that kind of formed at the start of the game that we're carrying through, and we had a lot of people that were in town for Dan's class that he was teaching the next morning, so they were kind of just watching and joining the camaraderie and just having a good time with it. So super fun game.
Great stuff, man. I'm kind of jealous I didn't go up there and take a look.
It was a spectacle for sure. It was just a good looking game. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that's a lengthy hobby progress games played session. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there, I think. I mean, the key takeaways for me, not games played, but hobbying, is make sure if you're doing large projects, organize all your paints so that you know exactly where they are. You're saving so much time. Not searching around for stuff, as my desk tends to get kind of cluttered. Now I make a point of making sure it's organized and clean, and just and documenting your recipes, because you never know when you're going to go back. So
right, especially for the two armies that I've been painting for 10 plus years with Necrons and Sharks. Like, had I not had those documented and adding something on so many years later, I'm like, how did I do this? And
what color was it?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this. We're going to take a break, then we're going to come back. We'll talk with Travis and Ed, and
Travis and Ed joining us for the Warrior Lodge.
All right, we'll be back shortly. All right, so we're back after a fairly long break, and a couple things we neglected to mention during the first part of the podcast, especially during the hobby progress section, Josh.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention that we have two new inductees into the Hall of Legends, and that is Bill Morlock and Neil Tweed. Neil Tweed, who got mentioned this episode for his gorgeous Wraith Lord.
And last episode, 2 in a row. So really well deserved for both of them. Plethora of amazing work that you've both presented. So really well deserved. Welcome to the Hall of Legends.
Yeah. So I'll take a few pictures of stuff they've posted. I'll post it up in our Hall of Legends on the website. I've already reached out to both these guys about their shirt size, so we can get them their special shirt. I ordered their name tag for the shirt. So welcome to All Legends. Now we cannot comment on your stuff any longer. So you no longer get mentioned in any of the Elite Choice options. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was, Adepticon rooms went up yesterday. So I hope you got your room. I hope you got your... All indication was that it was much smoother than previous years, but I think it still sold out in like 10, 15 minutes is what I heard. So
Man, I was on within 2 minutes and just going down the list. First priority, second priority, third priority, and I got like 8th priority. I got the last available rooms for double beds. If you just needed a king bed, it wasn't that hard, but trying to share a room with somebody.
Yeah, I think that's...
I was surprised for how many hotels are immediately attached for that, for how quickly those blocks are selling out.
Yeah, it's popular. And I think 2025, both you guys are going, right, Ed and Travis?
Indeed. I got my king bed.
Nice.
For a king.
Yeah, I got my room. It was a king bed, so I guess they're easier to get.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm sharing mine with somebody, but hey, it's a king bed. So that's because I'm lucky and Shell goes. So, So the voices you're hearing, if you're not watching us, are Ed and Travis from Life After the Cover Save. You guys had stopped recording for a while, and now you are back. So what drove the decision to kind of come back? Because listen, I've gone and come back twice now.
Yeah. So our initial thought was, because we've heard tale that when Carl quits and comes back, his audience grows double, triple.
That's not true.
So what we did is we quit so that when we would come back, we would have a bigger audience. Yeah.
We have like Carl's like the John the Baptist. He has prepared the way for life to return after the cover save.
How's that working out for you guys?
Our numbers are lower than they've ever been.
Listen, mine are perfect. Mine are too. They dropped a bit, but we were gone for a year. We were on hiatus for a year.
Yeah.
And, I expected that we have a tight... I mean, they're still not... I don't think anything to sneeze at. But
we had a lot of feed issues, but they're all cleared up. So if you search for Life After the Cover Save, only one show shows up now.
Instead of 3.
At one point, it was 4.
Oh.
Did you guys shut down shortly after we recorded that Necromunda episode? I don't know, like 2 years ago now. And it's like, was it because I was on that episode? You're like, all right, shut it down.
Yeah. No.
Perfect.
So what was the impetus for coming back?
Well, I got, I started listening to podcasts again. I kind of like stepped away and started getting excited about playing again, playing the hobby. I kind of stepped away from the hobby in general. And me and Travis have been talking about starting projects together, and then we wouldn't really get any legs going. And then finally, when the Old World came out, I think that's when we were, or right before it came out, we were really like, hey, I want to record again. I miss that.
Yeah.
And so
I think ultimately we were just doing so much hobby, and we were back in it, and we're all like, well, we ostensibly we were doing way more in miniature gaming than we were like in the last year of LATCS. When I was just a shadow member, I was the editor in the background, but now, Blake and Ed, they decided to let me in as a full member. I got the tattoo and my subdermal implant supposed to be installed next Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, it is
nice. Yeah, I find doing the show also helps my hobby in a way that I want to provide content, so I want to paint something, so I want to move forward, and in that sense, I want to play games so that I have things to talk about, but likewise, it forces me to play games, which I enjoy, so it kind of becomes cyclical, I think, for myself.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back, guys, because I, too, took a break from even kind of listening to podcasts. I wasn't commuting during COVID, and so it was like, that was when I listened, and now we're all back. We're all back.
We're all back.
Reformation of the West Coast Podcast Alliance.
I'm in.
Except we're missing Imperial Vox.
Got Bill and Dawson. We got to get them back.
No, Dawson's not coming back. Get out of here. All right.
Well, now that Campbell is on the West Coast, we can include Badcast as part of the West Coast podcast. Half of the Badcast.
It's a strong alliance.
So I heard you say Old World got you guys kind of focused. What else are you working on other than Old World? Like, what are you enjoying playing right now? Are you doing 40K?
I'm enjoying thinking about playing the Old World, but technically haven't actually played it physically. Mm-hmm. I've played it digitally, and I'm still very excited about it
with Josh.
But with Josh, it was some really fun, interesting games. I think I understand the game, but I can't really say that I've played it. But I am playing for me a ton of 40K right now. I'm getting in on average 2 games a month right now, and that's more than I've done in a very long time.
With several kids and full time,
it's a little tougher.
Yeah. I'm playing at least once a week at this point. Like I'm playing pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So. Which is again a lot for me. I am not. So I sat with Shell and played. We talked earlier about games played, and we played a game, and we split it up over 2 days. I think we take for granted how much mental energy that takes to learn the game and be involved in it. And I told Shell after my game last night at the Guild House, I was like, now imagine playing 3 of these in a day and then 2 more the next day. And by the way, if you're in the top tier, you're going to play 3 more in 1 more day. She's like, that's not happening. And I'm like, I know. It doesn't happen for me either. I just can't do it.
It's all strangers and the pressure's on. Go.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, geez, that would be the end of.
Tournament play. Tournament play, I think, is behind me. I would have a hard time playing 2 games in one day.
Well, listen, we got you guys coming up the 8th up to my neck of the woods, along with a bunch of people. So we're going to have a ton of games to play that day here at the Astronomicon. So I think I got to set up like 5 tables. So it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time.
Fill it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Very exciting.
So with all that in mind, let's move into our topic du jour, which is the Warrior Lodge. And for those who aren't aware, it's a moderated discussion, kind of talking about some recent things going on in the hobby or even long-standing things and how those things impact us and the people we play with. So I'll just launch right into it with question number 1, which really focuses around the Warhammer 40K universe being a satire. So in the past, Warhammer 40K was said to be a satire of a lot of things, but mostly a satire about fascism, about Thatcherite Britain, the Cold War, and generally was I'm taking this as a quote from somebody, a giant middle finger to the notion that progress is inevitable and always good. So basically anything and everything that a bunch of British nerds living in a crumbling post-industrial north of England in the 80s would be upset about, including probably the members of the Band of the Police. And so that's where it originated from. And I guess my question is, has this changed? So is 40K these days still satirizing something, or has it moved away from those roots? And if it has changed or hasn't, is that a good thing or a bad thing in your mind? And let's start with Travis on this one.
Yeah, so I've been mulling over this this concept, and I think my answer is no. I don't think it's satirizing anything anymore, except for itself. I feel like the core of that the satirical commentary of what it was talking about is all still there. Mm-hmm. But now it feels like the game almost takes itself too seriously in the lore for me to say it's satirical. It's almost like it has become its own genre. Mm-hmm. I think it is no longer satirical, and what it is grimdark. Mm-hmm. The satire evolved and gave birth to this new, well, quote unquote new sci-fi genre that we now call grimdark, mm-hmm. where it's just a grim, dark future. Except for when you think about the orcs, that they're the only ones that I think. But I also think like the orcs are just satirizing the universe that they live in by just having fun in it. But yeah, I think that is my answer.
It's interesting that you say the orcs in particular, because I've seen the orcs displayed in kind of two different ways. A lot of times they're displayed in a comical kind of soccer hooligan type of atmosphere, but then other times I've seen them displayed in both Forge World books as well as I want to say Rin's World by Steve Parker, which was one of the Space Marine battle books, mm-hmm. where they were much more serious and kind of scary as a creature.
Yeah. Ferocious.
I have thoughts on that. I think both things are true. And when an orc army is presented as that kind of like fun, laughing at itself, I think that is the orc's own perception of themselves being personified. And when they're scary, that's what everyone else is seeing from the outside.
Yeah, I
think both things are true about the orcs.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. Ed, do you have any? I used to play orcs. Do you still play orcs, Ed?
I have a massive collection of orcs
that
I'm trying to. I bought the codex because that's the army that I think I want to start playing again. But yes, I think the orcs are. I think they still try to have a hint of the silliness in it, but it's not as silly as it used to be. It used to be way more silly. Right. They keep a little bit of randomness in the rules, and they have some funny gimmicks, I guess you'd call them, for the Orc Codex. But I'd have to agree with Travis that the Warhammer world became something that it wasn't, I guess.
Right.
And it's like, that's what it is now. It's its own thing.
Yeah. Josh, any thoughts? Is everybody going to agree? Ed, you promised me you would disagree with everything.
Everything you say.
Oh,
Carl.
Gotcha.
Only what you say.
Yeah. We'll start with Carl answers going forward.
Next.
I think it's definitely evolved, right? From where it took off in the late 80s, like 40K, and the universe has definitely evolved into a more grimdark, less whimsical, less satirical spot. But at the same time, if we're looking at like world history, like the state of the world that we're in right now, with like way more conservative nationalism, AI is like rampantly taking off and like being utilized. And these are all things that are like very 40K that have happened in the history of 40K, with thinking machines are outlawed, and the Imperium itself is just this, theocracy that's taken over the universe of mankind. Mm-hmm. And kind of the pessimistic part of me feels like our current history has taken a turn that way, and multiple places across the world here. And 40K is maybe more of a warning sign more than anything these days. But
sure.
It's interesting.
You might make me disagree with myself right now, because what you were just saying just reminded me of like a popular YouTube video that keeps popping up, where now it's like Joe Rogan talking to someone, and they put like their faces on Space Marine bodies, and it translates into like, well, yeah, like what they're saying sounds insane, just like what a Space Marine would be saying. Oh, who's the other one? Ed, help me out with this guy's name. The one who's like, and he's starting the frogs game.
The guy that just lost his whole empire.
that maniac. They keep putting him in like a Grey Knight suit,
the InfoWars
with the
guy.
thing. The InfoWars guy. We don't need to say his name.
He's got
forget that guy. But people are making satire using the 40K world. So I don't know. Maybe the satire roots are still very strong there.
You know what's interesting? I wonder if it hasn't almost become, in a sense, a mockery of what it used to be, right? Because Games Workshop is the biggest dog on the block, right? They're the ones making all the money.
Yep.
Like all these other companies, it's funny. Like maybe 10 years ago when I was at Adepticon one year, somebody was talking to me who was in the business, and they were talking about like how they have all these, like there's Games Workshop, and it is the big player, and everybody else, like the people who are making tokens, the people are all kind of like the hangers on, and they're getting their table scraps, but really, like this is the company that's making the most money, and they just rolled out bonuses to all their people because they've done so well in this last year, and more power to them. But I mean, but the funny thing is, I wonder what the guys back then would think of this now, because at a certain point, it went from being a bunch of gamers making something they thought would be fun to a business that is publicly held and traded. And so in a sense, it has different responsibilities, and it has a responsibility to grow and become as popular as it can be. But I agree with you actually all in the sense that there was a turning point where it started taking itself, you used the term too seriously, but I think it just started taking itself seriously instead of frivolously, and now it became less about look, space elves and space dwarves and this, and it became more about like we're creating a universe and a galaxy and a lore. And I think that's really apparent when you read the Eldar, or Eldari as they're called now, lore, like how long that has stuck around. That's the one that I always use as a reference, because it just, doing the show Force for the Eldar really stuck with me. There was like, wow, they wrote this long ago, and it is fantastic and deep, and it has not changed. It's really
nailed
incredible.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting because it started out like, if you read the Realms of Chaos books or some of the early Rogue Trader stuff, it's very much like 80s cocaine dream,
Fueled.
like throw it at the wall. But it was such a small and like just, I don't know, flexible company. You know, it was like 10 guys in a basement, a bunch of nerds just getting together and having fun with it and kind of riffing off that. And now it, like, Games Workshop is this huge corporate entity with shareholders and all that. So to your point, like just the nature of the company has changed. So I think the game has evolved, and the background, the lore has evolved to support that, and just the growth and sustainability and seriousness. And in some ways that is kind of its own satire, I guess, which is interesting.
And I think that can be a problem when you have like a CEO who does not understand the game. Like that has, I think that has evolved. I think the guy currently is a lot better than the previous guy, but like, I think that was a problem. So I guess that leads to that second part of that question, which is this a good or bad change, or are you indifferent to it? My take on it, so I can give something for Ed to disagree with, is that quite frankly, for me, it's a good thing. I like my sci-fi a little more serious and a little less goofy. There are goofy things within 40K, and I tend to, you know, I tend to glaze over my suspension of disbelief with them. But this is why I really enjoyed the previous, like the Forge World Imperial Armor books, where they wrote it in a much more realistic in a world where there's magic, and you know, but it was much more gritty and it was more grim than grimdark of a codex. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Is it good, bad, indifferent to it? Josh?
So I would say I miss the comedic aspect of 40K from time to time, again, especially since I've been playing second edition. But I think for the overall health of the universe, the lore, the background, I think it is a good thing. I think it's a good evolution. I think Grimdark is so fitting, and it just makes the universe feel more oppressive, which is kind of really it humanity is in dire straits, right? So we've got everything's desperate, and we're on the brink of disaster from all sides. Like Necron's popping out of the ground, Eldar floating around everywhere, Tyranids coming from nearby galaxies. It's a mess, and I think the more serious, somber nature of the lore now kind of reflects the that we are in fact one stroke away from midnight.
Travis?
I'm gonna have to disagree. The lightheartedness of the game is really like what drew me into it. Like it's funny, I've never collected orcs, but orcs have always been my favorite faction to play a game against. And so, and it is that silliness. It's the battle wagon being able, its capacity is how many models you could fit on it. Like that kind of, but I was born in the second edition where I think that game was the most silly game they ever made. It was rather ridiculous. It was like characters just doing amazing things, and you had a few troops that didn't really matter. But I think there needs to be a little more balance. I would like to see a little more lightheartedness in it, and I think it might trickle down to the players, where players might not take the game so seriously. Something funny happened, like I was planning a game, and everyone's saying, "Ooh, against a very tough opponent, Cheyenne."
Yeah.
And everyone was asking me, "Are you
Can we all
scared?"
agree that we dislike Cheyenne?
So. I'm going to disagree with you there, Carl. I do like Cheyenne personally, but I hate him as a 40K.
There you go. All right. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
So, but everyone was saying like, "Ooh, are you scared?" And it kind of dawned on me. I said, "No, I'm not scared because there's no consequences if I lose."
It's not like I lose I have to break my models or something.
Yeah.
Well, let's make this more interesting.
I'm still playing the game, but like nothing happens to me when I lose. I feel maybe a little angry, but that passes.
Start breaking Cheyenne's models. Ed, what about you? What are your thoughts? Good, better, and different?
I think that I would have to say that it's a little worse because when Josh was talking about threat level midnight and there's enemies to our left and there's enemies to the south, I was thinking about America right now and how scared I am because the news is telling me to be scared, so I have to be scared, and everything's really bad. And so when I go into my hobby, into my altered reality of the game I want to play, I want it to be a little more pleasant, a little more fun.
Okay.
Okay. So I disagree with you, Carl.
All right, fair enough. Look, I mean, I think you can see orcs, in particular, if we talk in orcs so much, you see them played in two different ways, right? You see like Loopy's orcs, which are like, his drill teeth dentist guy. And then you see then you can see other players who play orcs in a very serious way. I think there's room for both those things, but yeah, I like mine.
Then you see Cheyenne orcs, it's just like
Cheyenne's orcs are like, how can I
kill?
How can I beat Travis harder? All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Not hard.
And Carl, I mean, he came up here and beat me with his Blood Angel, so I want a rematch. Anyway, let's move on. So I want to talk a little Age of Sigmar here. And Josh and I have talked a little bit about this on the show, I think the last couple episodes. But recently, Age of Sigmar eliminated like this wide swath of models. In particular, the Stormcast Eternals were hit really hard. And some people who had invested in a bunch of models now have had them removed from the game in pretty short order. I think Age of Sigmar has been around maybe 10 years, maybe
9
at this point, 10 years. And so some of these people are going through this, GW rite of passage for the first time where, but it does seem like it's fairly quick. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the removal of, in particular, maybe this one, but the removal of large sets of models like this from a Games Workshop game. And what are your thoughts on that? And let's start with Ed on this one.
All right. So this, my first initial thought, well, actually my thought right now is I'm a little upset about it. It made me upset. Because it's not like it hasn't happened. But I feel like this one was a product, and I guess they've always have been, but a product of GW's making. For example, how many different versions of Stormcast do you need? You know what I mean? So they created way too many Stormcast models, and then they decided that it was too much, and we're going to resculpt them, and we're going to trim them down. But they did that to themselves. And the second reason why it was kind of hard and upset me was because the shortness of time.
Yeah.
Because some of those models had just came out in maybe the second or the third.
Yeah.
What edition are we on?
I think
so. They weren't that old.
We're going into the fourth.
Four is going pre-order tomorrow.
Yeah, like the starter, basically like most of the starter set from one of those, not the first one, but I think maybe even the second and third was just pretty much wiped out.
Right.
So I just felt like the length of time that those models were there when they're still metal Eldar models is kind of weird that they're getting rid of these so quickly.
Why aren't they making plastic Eldar when we're remaking Stormcast?
Wait for the Codex. Wait for the fingers crossed. Wait for the Codex.
I hope so.
Plastic warp spiders, please.
Okay. So that's an interesting point. Travis, your thoughts on this? I don't have a dog in this fight. Like, I don't play Stormcast. I'm not really playing Age of Sigmar. But I'm curious how people are reacting to it who are not somebody like that's wholly invested in it at the moment.
Yeah, similar. I don't play AOS. I've been very close to pulling the trigger, but unfortunately now with the old world being back, my trigger fingers very far away from pulling anything on AOS. That being said, though, I could put myself in the shoes. Like if I had this like big old Stormcast army and I'm being told that it's not viable in the game when like I purchased these models 4 years ago and I just got it painted, that's a hypothetical, but it would really dishearten me. And I could see myself like getting angry to the point like maybe I'm like I want to find a different game, I'm going to take these models elsewhere. It would
maybe you're going to burn your high elf army.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
that joke never gets old.
Yeah, no.
It was the most ridiculous thing
extreme response.
Anyone in this hobby. But yeah, do you know what? Because at the end of the day, it feels more than anything rooted in corporate greed other than the health of the game.
Yeah.
It is not a decision where it's like, this is going to make the game better. It is this is going to make the shareholders more happy, which, it exists. And that is the motivation of a publicly traded company, like all of the motivations. So it might be getting down more to the core is like, oh, I wish GW was smaller, but I also don't wish GW was smaller because I love how easy it is to find a game of 40K if you really want to, because it's so big. But this is a dirty price that you have to pay, but it doesn't feel good, and it scares me. It scares me.
Before I go to Josh's response on that, like I have a couple things to say about it. One, I completely agree in the sense that like where I invested in this army and then a third of it is just basically wiped off the map in such short order, it would feel frustrating. I know I have a bunch of cultists painted up for my Chaos army, and now all of a sudden those cultists cannot be equipped that way. To me, I'm like, okay, so they're not equipped that way. They're just using their guns as clubs. I mean, like we're not playing.
They ran out of bullets.
Those tournaments that it matters as much. But like you, I have empathy for the people impacted by it. There are a couple things. I do think it is rooted in some corporate profit stuff, but I think some of it, in hindsight, like as they look back at where they came from with Age of Sigmar initially, I mean, initially it had no points, it had no nothing. You just put out your models and play what you want to play, and nobody reacted well to that.
You bounced off of a number of wounds.
I think that the company looked at, well, what was our strategy back then, and how has that strategy changed over the last 9 years? And oh boy, if we had to do it over again, we would do these things. Now might be the best time to pull that trigger, to use your terminology, than wait longer and find ourselves in a Space Marine situation where we're upgrading to Primaris and we're going to invalidate people's massive Space Marine collections, because Space Marines are really the thing that everybody has some of. As I was going through my garage the other day looking for bits for Shell's Chaos army, like I realized I have like so many Primaris Marines out there that I basically have an army worth. And they just seem to multiply. I don't know how it happens, but my point being,
gene seeds.
I wonder if some of the decision wasn't. Yes, it is. I think it is. I wouldn't use the word greed, but I think it is profit driven, that decision. And they say, okay, but should we just pull the Band-Aid off right now before it gets deeper in the hole, or do we drag this on for a long time and continue to make kits that people aren't going to want to buy any longer? And that leads me to kind of War Machine. I watched a video of, and I think I talked about this before, but I watched a video of these guys who run a game store talking about War Machine and the new iteration of it and why they weren't thrilled about it, and how War Machine before had a statement of, we will never get rid of your models. Like, your models, once it's made, it's permanent. And they ended up with stock sitting on the shelves that was not moving. And the company had to continue to produce that stuff that people weren't buying. And so it was like, where do we draw the line? So I think to some degree, like a tree, you have to prune it sometimes to keep it healthy overall. Was this aggressive? Yeah, I think it was. I think it was like an aggressive pruning to make some adjustments. But I will say the new sculpts I think look way cooler. But that's my take on it. I know it hurts. I'm not saying it's right. And I agree with you, Travis, in the sense that somebody could say, this sucks. Screw this. I'm going to go do some other game, that doesn't do this to me. And to that I say, well, I hope you find some opponents in that other game that you enjoy, because like I said earlier, these are the big dogs on the block. And the reason I started with Warhammer 40K was like everybody was playing. I was like, I will be guaranteed to get a game. That's my take on it. Josh, you got anything to add there?
Yeah, we talked about a bit on this on the Patreon episode, so I will answer slightly differently, or a different approach, another perspective.
I knew I had said something like this before.
The one thing I would say that is, if you are playing casually just among friends, garage games, whatever, local store that's not taking itself too seriously, overly competitively, a lot of the models that you have still are just going to be a slightly alternate like equipment loadout. If you're okay at being slightly not WYSIWYG, but still very representative of what you're playing, no problem. Like, still fully playable. It's just like playing with Legends units at 40K. They're still there. They're still valid. There might not be tournament legal for official things, but they have rules. And
actually, the event that they're running at Warhammer World, that narrative thing, they're actively encouraging you to bring Legends units if you want, which is really interesting.
Well, sure,
that's cool.
Yeah. The other part of that I was going to say is, if you are on the opposite side of things, so you are like highly competitive, then you're probably more likely to be chasing a meta, and discontinued models and units are going to be going along they're going to be underpowered, whatever. So you're going to be looking for that kind of the new stuff that going along with Codex creep or War School creep or whatever you want to call it, of whatever the new hotness is going to tend to have, a little bit of an edge, as they want to make things competitive so they can move more models and keep the game interesting. So there's that side of thing where you're probably already used to going through armies, especially like kind of top tier competitive players are cycling through armies like on a yearly basis, like just depending on faster, what appeals to them, if not faster, right? Yeah. And then kind of somewhere in the middle, one thing I was going to say, regardless of player type, but it's more if you're looking at some of these tools, to Ed's point, are from first or second edition, like the first edition box set. So these molds are 10 plus years old at this point from when those things started in production. So instead of refreshing or retooling some of these old molds, if they could not throw money into repairing molds that have seen better days and now technology and sculpting and things can be better, but instead we're going to invest in a smaller number of models that are doing a better job of bringing models to the market. And again, Games Workshop right now is very much focusing on getting new players into the game. They care less, I think, about existing players who have collections and things like that. Your money has been spent, and it's not just like an agreed thing, I don't think, but really they're about growing the hobby, attracting that next generation, bringing new players in, and better looking models are definitely going to help with that. But then you also have some models that, like the Prosecutors are a great example, that have been discontinued, but they've already been reintroduced in new sculpts. So if you had the existing Prosecutors, which are the winged kind of flying Stormcast Eternals, new sculpts have been released of this, but that doesn't invalidate the old models at the same time, right? If you have the old models, it's still a 1-to-1. I don't know if the basing size changed or anything like that, but it could be as simple as a rebase if needed, or they're identical and close enough in a friendly game. So yes, it sucks, but I think there's a lot of reasons both financially, logistically, new player, better sculpts, new technology for it to happen. And I'm not invested in Stormcast, so again, I don't have any skin in the game, but
and I think regardless,
I can see a lot of reasons why it happened.
We could spell out the reasons from here till tomorrow, but if you're hurt by this, you're still hurt by this, and I think that's a valid feeling to have, to be upset that everything I've been working on is now no longer work onable, effectively. So,
absolutely.
Speaking of Age of Sigmar, the new Age of Sigmar is coming out. Hashtag new Age of Sigmar. It's coming tomorrow. Actually, the pre-orders start tomorrow. We already got Travis's answer on this. Travis, you're deep in the old world, not in He-Man's Eternia.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. Anything
that double dip.
Age of Sigmar brings to the table, I feel that void with 40K. Like 40K is my round base, more game. And when I think of fantasy, although it's funny, I grew up with He-Man. I love He-Man.
But I say that because Jason Mullins always compared it to like He-Man.
Oh, that's funny. I compare it to He-Man too, because I feel like that is the genre of fantasy kind of where it lives.
Yeah.
It's not even high fantasy. I would say it's psychedelic fantasy. Like
different kind of high
fantasy.
Superhero fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I like my fantasy stuff to feel like Lord of the Rings, like armies meeting on the field of battle. Not a lot of terrain, just pushing around big blocks. I want to feel like a war master with one of those sticks pushing their Napoleonics across the table. And so that's why I'm an old world guy. Although I love Underworlds, and I'm back into Underworlds. So that's where I get my AOS fix. Is I love playing Underworld.
So the question there really was, are you going to play the new version? And if not, why? And so I think Travis has already pre-answered that question. And then Ed, what about you? If Travis isn't playing, what room does it have in your lexicon?
So the only. Well, actually, no, not true. I was going to say the only edition that I bought of Age of Sigmar was the one that got deleted. So all the models that I have for Age of Sigmar are no longer valid.
Every single model.
I think most of that starter set this is gone.
Oh, gotcha.
And the one with the ballista and the Griff Rider, and so I will not be buying it, because by the time I get around to building it and painting it, it'll no longer be valid.
Reasonable.
So I'm out of Age of Sigmar.
I think that's a smart response. Especially weighing what time you have and what am I really going to get to. Every time I go to buy something now, and believe me, I always, every time I go to a game store, I'm like, what can I spend my money on? And then I look around and I'm like, realistically, when are you going to do this, Carl? I'm like,
I've got what I need. Yeah,
I got everything I need. What am I doing? It's sometimes I leave the game store kind of sad, because I'm like, there was nothing for me to buy. That's pathetic. That's so pathetic. Josh, you and I have talked about Age of Sigmar. I think the great. Why don't you talk a little bit about Spearhead, just in the sense of it opening doors, but yeah.
Spearhead has me excited because it is kind of what Combat Patrol brought to 40K, but they've really taken it to. It's got 2 extra layers of depth. They've got way more tactics on there, better balance, better play testing. It has this cool battle trait / command ability thing. Like, do you want to cash in your card that's going to give you points, or do you want to cash it in for this once per game ability? And it's just. And it's similar. It's roughly 500 point size games. Looks really fun. Small maps. It's dedicated boards, so objectives already printed on the boards in place. You need, I think, 4 pieces of terrain, your box, and you're ready to go with the deck of cards. Very excited for that. I've got the models, and as far as full on Age of Sigmar, I do have most of the old world models, most of the army, which should say that I'm building for the old world. I have a handful that are 20 plus years old for those models, but then most of what I have are newer models. So I have models that are going to work for both systems. and I just need to figure out the basing. So for me, there's no reason not to build my old world army to be compatible with Age of Sigmar as well, because minus a model or two, like I really have everything I need for that. It's fully compatible for both systems. So, you just be smart about basing. And
that's what I was going to say, the round basing in the trays. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
See,
heavy cavalry is the one thing.
He did everything right. Yeah. He did the round faces.
He did everything right.
So I only have to paint one army, and I get 2 armies for 2 game systems out of it, plus Spearhead. So actually, I'm really getting 3 kind of unique games out of this one army. So that has me excited. But if I wasn't already invested for Old World, I might go in for Spearhead, but I probably wouldn't go deeper than that.
Yeah.
So the Spearhead, you're saying it's like a smaller version of AOS? I hadn't really looked into this.
So
I don't like it.
No.
Travis, the interesting thing about it, and this is, I think it's super smart, just like Combat Patrol, super smart for 40K. Let's say you were Age of Sigmar curious, and you're just like, well, I really like these rats, or I really like whatever. You're out, $150 for the starter set, but you're playing immediately with that starter set. And my take on it, when we were talking in our Patreon episode about it, was I go in for that amount. Hey, maybe let's say I'm an Age of Sigmar player and I'm playing Tree Bros and I'm like, I'd really like to try Chaos. I can buy into that. I can see if I like it. If I don't like it, I can probably resell it for 75% of, if I've assembled it well, 75% of what it cost me. So it's a minor investment to test things out. If I were like Josh said, if I were going to get into Age of Sigmar at this point, it would be just a quick Spearhead force to try it out. And as it turns out, I already have enough that I could run a Spearhead force at the moment. So, if I play it, that's how I'll play it. But right now I'm just so focused on 40K. I've just got so much going on. I can't diverge. And I as much as I just saw that strike, you're like, oh, really? I encourage you to not go that route right now. Stay the course.
No. I have a lot.
Have you heard of Legions Imperialis?
That's the same thing. Like all of these specialty games, I'm so interested in, but I'm like, I still have Swooping Ox to paint. That have been in my paint queue for 20 years.
There you
go.
That's something I didn't talk about earlier, Josh, during the hobby progress section. Was I went back to my Kanban board of all my stuff, and it's all updated. I was able to move so many things over to the completed column. It was glorious. So I'm working through my.
It's been a really busy year for you, yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to paint as many models as there are days in the year. So we'll see.
Ooh, nice.
That's my objective. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I get halfway
that's a good number.
If I get halfway there, I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
So,
slap chat more beastmen.
There you go. So the last question for this section is around the balanced data slate, the Munitorum field manuals, which are the points adjustments, the core rules updates that just came out, which I don't know if you've taken a look at, but there's like a new pivot rule in there that's a little controversial. I think I understand what they were trying to address, but anyway, I'll give you my speech on that in a little bit. All that was released earlier this month. As usual, there are controversial changes across the board. We were just talking a few minutes ago about meta chasing, and like in the chaos groups in particular, warp talons were like fantastically good. Like they could come down, attack, and then basically bolt out. And now they changed it to they can come down and attack. If they wipe the unit, they can take off. And people are like, oh, now they're not worth the points. They're terrible. Get rid of them. I'm like, well, you shouldn't have bought those 4 boxes of warp talons based on the initial release. I mean, it never works out for you that way.
If it's broken, it's going to be fixed at this point.
Just
like things don't last for 10 years. It's
not like
you got 6 months. Enjoy it.
Yeah. So, I mean, this whole system of, hey, quarterly we release a balanced data slate. What do we think of this system and how it's working so far? And let's start with let's start with Josh on this one.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's good for the overall health of the game that things are being addressed. Balance is being addressed. What they're focusing on is keeping the game more fair. Like it's obviously a dice game. Things are going to happen. Dice are going to be swingy. You could roll like a Tuttle and just not have luck on your side for the dice, but it's still a fun game, right? So I think the way they're approaching the game right now is let's balance it for competitive players, and there's nothing about a balanced game that detracts from a casual or narrative play experience.
Agreed.
The one caveat that I would say with that statement is I think it is a little bit harder to access the game, especially for new players, when you have your physical copy of your rule book and a bunch of stuff is already outdated in that because it's been updated in a field manual, or the points are already changed, and some of the core rules, like including the movement phase with pivoting, have changed from how they're actually printed in the rule book. But in this day and age, everybody has access to the internet who's playing this game, and there was for so long there was a lot of reasons why they didn't do these things. Like, not everybody was buying White Dwarfs when they would put out rules updates and publications that way. Not the PDFs weren't reliable, and when people were going to tournaments, like, what version of the FAQ were you bringing and playing off of? So I know that there was hesitation to do that, but I think for the overall health of the game, it is kind of for the best that they are addressing these things more frequently to keep that just the game in a healthy and interesting spot, so nothing is ever going to be broken for too long. You're not going to go 10 years with a Dark Elder Codex that hasn't been updated and like so completely out of date because it's from 2 editions ago that it's not really a compatible game anymore at that point. So yeah, I think overall it's for the best.
Any disagreement with that or agreement or
direction? Actually, I think I agree with what Josh said. Like the speed at which things are coming out is kind of fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be overwhelming is the only thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you're trying to make a competitive game, you have to keep the rules up. It's better for playing. It's just kind of disheartening when your rule book's not that old and it's like I go over to play with Travis and he's like, "Oh, you don't need that anymore. Just put that away." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. It actively made me angry. I'm talking about several months ago when I really kind of kicked into gear because I was only like playing 10th edition for my first like 15 games of 10th edition. I was only playing with people I was trying to introduce to the game.
Okay.
Which was my son. We played a bunch, and then some just other like tangential friends who weren't into it. I was trying to like, hey, let's play Combat Patrol. Let me show you. So what happened is when I finally played Cheyenne, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. He's like, oh no, that's been FAQ'd. Like literally 3 times in one turn, I tried to do something, and it's like, oh, that's not how the game works anymore. I'm like, what do you mean it's not how the game works? It's right here in my book. Yeah. It's like, you really shouldn't use the book anymore. But then I found the app and I started using this is my point. The official app for me makes it so that I could handle these quarterly updates.
Okay.
Because without that, I would get so frustrated with having to look through PDFs like every time and having all these sort of things. But the way they designed that app where you hit that top right button and it turns into a let's play mode, and all the rules are there. Even
it's so good.
And you scroll down and all of the command point things. What are those called?
Stratagems. The stratagems. In which phase?
Right there's
and your army
and the command bunker right
and
there.
It's like
it's fantastic.
Once I started playing with that, I was like, I could update this every week, and I don't care as long as I just look at the app and it tells me what I'm going to do.
The command bunker view just saves the world. But here's and I agree. I think the argument is they got to go digital for everything. The problem is, they're trying to make money on everything too, and at a certain point, you get a little frustrated. For example, Shell's now playing Night Lords. We both play Chaos Space Marines. I had to go buy a second Chaos Space Marine Codex so that she could input
unlock her app.
And all she wanted was the code. And she's like, it's really dumb that you can't just buy the code. I'm like, I agree. I agree with you. I'm not arguing. And so I had to chase one down. Like Sky didn't have one. Gamecastle didn't have one. Finally, I'm like, I call the Games Workshop store and I'm like, do you guys have one of these inside? Yeah, I got one. Okay, hold on to it for me. I'm going to come down there. And it just, I literally wanted to just call him and go, take my card over the phone, charge me for it, and just give me Give me the thing.
Throw the book away.
Throw the book away.
I've got 2 of them sitting over there. I'm like, I'm going to give one to somebody just so they have it, because we don't need to.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yes, I agree. The app is fantastic. You got to pay for the app. It's okay. Yeah. And whatever. But I think I hope eventually they just move to the digital thing. I get it. And I understand what everybody's saying, but man, it's time to move. It's time to get with the times. Update your website and get
Yes. And let us copy much rosters.
Happier. I'd be happy paying a higher monthly fee if it just gave you like all the codexes. If there was like a subscription, a tournament tier.
Oh,
yeah, like a tournament tier.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're a tournament player? Boom. You pay this monthly fee and you get all the codexes.
You get all the codexes.
Okay, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot.
Do you guys know offhand? Or this is also a listener to a question to the listeners, if none of you guys know the answer. But if you buy a EPUB version of a codex, so a digital copy of the codex, does it have a digital code in the back of that, like a unique digital code?
I didn't even know you could buy an EPUB version any longer.
Oh, you can.
I did not know that. I'll bet you it does not. I don't know. I'd love to know. So if somebody in the group out there knows, that would be very helpful. All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's take a short break. We're going to come back and we'll record. We have a whole bunch more questions to ask you guys, so we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. And so Warrior Lodge Part 2. Let's just leap right into the next question. And this one for me is like a late edition, but Warhammer Space Marine 2 is coming out soon. The videos have sent me into overdrive excitement about it. Are you going to get it and play it? What are you most looking forward to in it? And then I have a follow-up question to that. But let's just go around the horn. Ed, are you going to get this game and play it?
Absolutely.
PC?
Carl. I'm going to get it.
Console?
Whatever. I have an Xbox here.
Yeah, but
so
I don't even know if
Xbox.
I don't know if it'll be on Xbox One. Do you have Xbox One or do you have the newer Xbox?
The newer one. My hope is that it will be cross platform so we can all play together. If not, I'll have to get it on the PC to play with you guys. But I really enjoyed the first Space Marine. I like the multiplayer. And I've been waiting for this game for a long time.
And there's a co-op. Yes. There's a co-op multiplayer now too.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna have to do it.
Travis?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it on PC and Xbox because I have two groups. I have my old original 40K group from when I started back in the 90s. We still keep in touch, and we're all kind of excited. Let's play this together. And they're all PC users, so I'll be playing it on PC. I'll be playing it on Xbox with my LATCS crew. I can't wait.
Excellent, Josh. How you feeling, buddy?
No. I absolutely love Space Marine, but I'm a Mac guy, and as of right now, to my knowledge, it is not Mac compatible. So I'll have to do a little command terminal. I've been able to do a few things to run more modern PC games like Diablo 4, but it's not 100% of the time that it doesn't always work. So I will absolutely love to play it, but I don't know if I'll have the system to run it at the moment.
I've been known to randomly send people Xboxes, so be careful.
I'll send you my address.
I've got an old Xbox, which my old Xbox will definitely not run a new game like that because I've got an old Xbox One, just the original Xbox One, not even whatever the One S or that came out afterwards. So I don't think it's going to run on that platform, and if it's not Mac compatible and doesn't work with the kind of the new the game developer kit that makes Windows stuff compatible for Macs. If it doesn't happen to work out with that, whatever version of Wine that it's running, then unfortunately I will miss out on this one until I get a platform that is compatible. Yeah. All right. Which I'll be super bummed, especially with that co-op.
Oh, it looks so good. You know what? Here's the thing. I'll play with our listeners too. So make sure we're exchanging Steam stuff. Right now we're playing a bunch of Helldivers too, so make sure we're exchanging Steam stuff in our Discord channel so that we can play, because I'm all for it. In fact, I want to start playing
nice.
What's the Underhive one where you're like it's like the I can't remember what the name of it is, but I reinstalled it recently because I heard it got upgraded. Warhammer Darktide is supposed to be pretty good now. Like they've updated it a bunch. It's supposed to be really good, so I'm gonna give that another try. So, what do you think?
Rogue Trader just put out a big update too. I haven't checked it out since.
What do you think?
I'm too busy painting.
This is true. This is true, and nothing like video games gets in the way of hobby progress. So like I've been doing a good job of balancing that so far. What do you think has been the best Warhammer? I don't include Warhammer Fantasy, but Warhammer video game release so far for you, Ed?
I would have to say the original Dawn of War game was my favorite Warhammer game, because it kind of, in a way, was like playing Warhammer, but not really. Yeah. And but seeing models go across the table and shooting and the sounds, and it was very much a very fun game, and that's my favorite.
Yeah, Travis.
So I loved that Space Marine one. Like, I remember when you're just walking around and seeing the way the buildings were so massive. Like it submersed me in the world. So that's close up there. Dawn of War games I liked, but right before Space Marine 1 came out, they released a game called Kill Team.
Yeah.
That was a top-down gauntlet-style shooter.
Was it top-down or was it like kind of isometric?
Well, it was a little isometric. It was a little isometric. Yeah, I think isometric. But it's Space Marines crashing onto a derelict like orc ship, and there's orcs there, and it's the sort of thing where you're moving with one stick and you're just holding down your gun and spraying with the other one. I loved that game. I had so much fun playing that game, and it was a great two-person co-op couch game. And of course, eventually, like spoilers for this 15-year-old game, like Tyrannage end up being on the ship as well. So you're fighting orcs, and then eventually you're fighting Tyranids, and man, it was a good time. So that's my number one.
I just remember the Melt-A-Gun sounded like a vacuum cleaner when you would turn it on.
Yes, it did.
Josh, you?
All good choices. Yep, Space Marine definitely did the best job of immersing anybody into the 40K universe and the scale of things, especially. That I've just blanked on the name. Kill Team was super fun. Mm-hmm. I think I'm on board with Ed though. For me, I think it was really the real-time strategy systems of the Dawn of War series. I think 1, 2, and 3 were all pretty fun. The first one definitely was for me, I think the strongest of just bringing all, I was a huge StarCraft player back in the 90s. Same. So bringing 40K and StarCraft kind of together in that world and bringing the scale of battle to life in a way. Because before Dawn of War came out, I think that the previous 40K game that I played was Chaos Gate, which was like an alternating turn. You had, like four models. It was a terrible game. Graphics were very, 90s. It was more of a turn-based strategy game of 40K, which really didn't bring 40K to life. Right. So something like Dawn of War for me kind of brought the scale of battle to life more. So
yeah, I agree.
Super fun experience.
Completely with what Travis said regarding Space Marine, being immersive and dragging me in. Like when you see you're like, oh, look at the size of those doors, or oh, this is what it looks like. This is how they envision it. It helped me to envision it a little bit more as well. So that's why I'm really looking forward to the sequel. But I agree with Ed. So I didn't give Ed a chance to disagree with me. I should have said Dawn of War 1 first because like you, I was a StarCraft player. I was a big StarCraft player, and StarCraft was such a solid game. It was so in South Korea, they were playing that hardcore tournament style and stuff. And we would get you had a map creator, and we would play this game. I lived in a house with 3 other guys. We were playing all the time, and then Dawn of War came out, and I was like, up until then, every other RTS felt like they were trying to dethrone StarCraft. And I'm not saying that it dethroned StarCraft, but it was as good as you could get. And like it was its own thing. Like it didn't feel like it was imitating StarCraft. It felt like it was its own thing, and it was 40K. So I was super into it.
It definitely played different. Yeah, it really did.
Okay, so next question. Legends units. We touched on this earlier, and I played in a game against Brett last week, and Brett was actually using a Legends unit. It was the first time somebody had used one. I have not been using them, and in fact, things that I've painted that I had a ton of units that have been Legends. Like I had different tanks for my Chaos Army and all this stuff. There were Forge World tanks that, have all been moved to Legends. I had Contemptor Dreadnoughts that are now all moved to Legends. I had a bunch of stuff moved to Legends. And I kind of said, well, I'm not going to really focus on using that anymore or again. And then playing Brett recently, because I felt like my efforts in painting were kind of wasted there while I was trying to get things moving. But then playing against Brett recently, I was like, oh, this was cool. Like, I miss the days of, hey, we're going to bring Forge World units to a thing. Is that cool? Yeah, it's cool, And so my only concern with it is I put a bunch of effort into painting something that ultimately doesn't ever get any updates or points updates and just kind of falls by the wayside at the end. But maybe I'll have enjoyed my time with it while I have it. So I haven't yet, but I think I might coming up in the future. So what about you, Travis? Any thoughts on any units that have been Legend?
I think my thoughts are that I would never stop playing with the Legend units, but no units that I own have become Legend yet. Mm-hmm. Legendary, maybe, but not Legends. Because I think I never really dipped into Forge World. So it's like my Eldar force is all still in the Codex. And my Necron force, I started building in 9th edition, so I haven't really, spread out to any of those. Although there are some cool Legend Forge World Necron units that I might be tempted. that big caterpillar thing. Ooh, that thing's so cool. But I could tell you my old world army is a legendary army where they are saying we will never update it. I'm vampire counts through and through, and guess what? I will always be vampire counts, and that's okay. That's okay with me. I got my little PDF, and I'm just gonna go forth.
Go be your vampire
and
self.
Kill and raise from the dead. Yeah.
Nice. All right. I think that's fair enough. Like I was so heavily invested in Forge World stuff. Like I've just got like even my rhinos have like Forge World extra armor on them and stuff from
Your Forge World has Forge World.
Yo dog, I heard we like Forge World. So we put a Forge World on your Forge World so you get Forge World while you're a Forge World. What about you, Ed? Have you had any experience playing with any legendary or against anybody running Legends units?
No, I haven't. I haven't played that many games in the past that weren't really doing the Legend thing.
Yeah.
But something to think about is when a model becomes a legend, because it's happened when they brought Age of Sigmar out. And they're like, you could still play your Warhammer Fantasy models, but the Bretonnians are legends, and they're not going to update them ever again. But now they're back. So maybe if you hold on to your legends, they might come back into the game. They might have a resculpt. They might do a resculpt, but you might just pull out your old one and be like, this is good enough.
Yeah. Everything seems cyclical, right? I mean, Ed, that's a really, I think that's the best point made of the show so far.
Wait,
Legend for
God
now.
of War was the most important thing.
Josh, you ready to play against?
Yeah, so I do.
I'm gonna bring them.
I bring it. I do have both a handful of Legends units for my Necron armies and my Sharkadon armies.
Nice.
And I'll tell you the number one reason I'm not playing with them is because they are not in the app.
Yeah. Oh.
So just not having that easy reference for list building or profile reference. They're not. The Forge World stuff is. Forge World stuff that is not Legends is in the app, but Legends units are not in there. So you need to leave the points out of that and like print out a card or a copy of the card, which isn't that big of a deal. But it is another thing to bring, and it like building your list and just being like, oh, whatever, I'm 215 points shy because the Legends unit is filling up that, and I need to have a card. That's the biggest reason that I'm not, but I'm not opposed to playing against them or playing with them. And in fact, I will love to bring my Contemptor Dreadnought out of retirement.
How spoiled are we already by the app and the improvements to it?
Yeah,
like,
no, it's good.
It's good. Like you were saying earlier, Trez, I went last night. I played a game last night against Bryce, and like I didn't even bring my codex. I just brought my iPad. Yeah. The one thing I will say is I had to tether my iPad through my phone to log in because there's not Wi-Fi there. Yeah. And then like, all right, but still, I mean, it's just so easy. Like they need to make their other electronic stuff as easy as they've made this app.
Hey, I think the app runs really good on an iPhone. Like the screen, they increase the size of the font well enough. Like I just run it off my iPhone.
Well, when I started painting my sisters, it was the first time I had to wear my headset with the magnifying glasses on.
Oh, well, yeah.
My vision is starting to go, and things seem to be getting smaller. So This is true. I need the iPad. Okay. All right. Josh, you came up with this question, but I want to pose it to everybody, which is how do you balance the joy of painting miniatures, assuming you get joy from painting, which I would say, I don't know that I have in the past, but boy, this last couple weeks has been a lot of fun, and painting with my wife has been a lot of fun. And if you're watching on video, you saw me move my camera because my wife is over there doing the gold edging on her Helldrake.
Champion.
Oh, she's starting with the Helldrake.
Yeah, that's what she's working on. I think
she's brave.
She's going in it. She's committed, man.
That's awesome.
And I
so awesome.
very much enjoy painting with friends. Like if people come over as a group and we paint, like I love that because it creates a conversation. But how do you balance the joy of painting miniatures with the thrill of commanding armies on the tabletop? And Josh, maybe you can answer this question first to give us a little bit of insight into what you were thinking.
Yeah, obviously there's people who are hobbyists first. There's people who are gamers first. There's people in the middle. I think most of us are probably more in that middle zone. But a part of it is like, for me, playing is a very social aspect of that, where hobbying is very kind of introspective, a little bit more like therapeutic. I'm just listening to an audiobook, or I'm just like sitting there for, 2 hours alone with my thoughts in a good way while I paint something and productive. And then I see that as an investment of my time now to then be able to take that and play with, friends across the table in a future event. So for me, it's kind of like, well, what's priority for you, and how, like, if you only have so many, hours of free time to spare, how are you deciding to invest that? Like, will you prioritize playing a game over painting, or will you prioritize painting something because you're excited about that and bringing this project to life, bringing, the old world to life or something like that? So yeah, it's just more of a curiosity point for some discussion. And I would say I'm definitely in the middle. Like I enjoy, actually, historically, I haven't really enjoyed the process of painting, but I absolutely love the end result. And I've always been like a fully painted army, fully painted games. And that's just like, since I was a 12-year-old kid playing this in the 90s, like that's how like 40K, Warhammer Fantasy, whatever miniature games has just been kind of the status quo for me. So I've definitely been enjoying the painting process more and more these days. And part of that is, escalating the hobby, having the right tools for the job, but also just being able to, build something and carry that momentum into the next thing. And then see it come to life on the tabletop across from, guys like you having fun with friends.
Mm-hmm. Ed?
Initially, when I started out in this hobby of playing 40K in the group that I used to play with, I was more focused, like 90% on the actual gameplay. I really enjoyed playing, and we would play every week. We'd go to the hobby shop and we'd get a game, and then sometimes even more on top of that. So I was very much into the game. We'd play Ard Boys, if you remember Ard Boys back in the day.
Explain what Ard Boys is for those who are fairly new to the hobby.
I kind of forgot, but the main thing was you'd get like a 2,500 point. It's sponsored by GW,
yep.
And it was a 2,500 point army you just made the best army you can make, the hardest hitting army you can make. It didn't have to be painted, and you'd go and you'd play 3 games.
That's right.
On a Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
And then
there was
and then
no roster, no force org to my recollection either.
No force org,
just
no
bring
painting required.
Bring it hard. Yep.
Bring your hard list. And then if you won, you go on to the semifinals, and then you go on to the next thing. And we did that twice, and it was brutal. But it was also, that's what I liked. I enjoyed playing. We would always me, Josh, and Blake, the first 3 of the LATCS, we would call each other. We would talk to each other after the games. It was always about list building and talking about the games, how we can improve. And that's that's what the focus was. But now it's kind of hard for me to play games of 40K, even if it's like, I know I'm going to have a fun time playing with Travis, or I'm going to go to Carl's thing. It's like something inside of me has been, I don't know, like I'm not in that mindset anymore, and I get like nervous or stressed about the list. Yeah. So, and I'm always, and it's because the game from when I used to play a lot has changed so much.
Yeah.
But I still, we all do this where we remember old rules and stuff. So I when I go to play, it's always like I have to like almost force myself to. But I do a lot of hobbying still. I still.
And you're a heck of a painter too, I might add.
Well,
like
thank you.
You commission painted some of my Necromunda guys, and then and then Loopy did the other parts of them when you couldn't do anymore.
Yeah. So I've always then since I stopped playing, to keep it into the hobby, I've always been the painter. So the balance is just swayed. It's just swayed from one end to the other, where I more enjoy painting more. And it's not that I don't, when I play the game, it's not like I don't have a good time. But even when I'm playing, though, I still get a little like tension and stress. Like, oh man, like I'm making all the wrong moves. I get kind of like,
well, listen,
it's that alpha.
When you come up here on the 8th, it doesn't matter. I have never won against an orc army. I'm not likely to start. Even when I had an extra Vindicator on the table, Ed.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
I did not win against an orc army. Yeah. So, and to me, it's really not about the winning or losing. To me, it's all about just having fun. And like the game I was playing with Bryce the other night, there was a point where like he had tied up my Land Raider with a monstrous creature, and I had some other units that were now about to assault into some gaunts, and I was like, well, I'm going to use the Land Raider to fire at this thing, but I'm at -1 to hit because he's engaged in combat. And the thing I appreciated about Bryce was he said, hold on a second, stop. And he goes, think about it. If the monstrous creature only has like 2 wounds left. If you are able to take those wounds off of that monstrous creature and it dies, then your Land Raider is freed up to shoot at its ballistic skill as opposed to -4. He goes, you got these guys here that are, have them shoot this. And I was like, you're absolutely right. That is a great point. And so like, those are the kinds of games we're playing right now where it's like, everybody's kind of helping each other, like think about the flow of this thing. I agree with you though, Ed, like to bring me to the tabletop, and I've been trying to overcome this more because I'm enjoying playing so much. It's an effort. And I remember even way back when Jeff was talking about this, like there's times where it's much easier just to play a board game because the effort of packing up all the models, taking them somewhere, setting up a table, playing the game, packing everything back up, there is a large overhead to playing the game. But I have to say with 10th edition, I have felt more than ever that it's worth the overhead. Like it's just been so much fun for me. So when you come up, please try not to worry about any of that stuff. Shell's going to play. I'd love to get a doubles game in with Shell so that like I can help her along and we can just play a fun game, so
I'll play a doubles game.
Yeah.
Whoever my partner is, I'll play.
Doubles games are nice too in the sense that you can kind of offset your your loss with a little bit of consolation. You know, you'd be like, well,
it was this guy's fault.
We both failed, you know. And when you win, you're like, you get to share the win. It was clearly all me. You know? when Josh and I played doubles of Adeptus Titanicus. Yeah. Josh was clearly like the smart, like tactical player. I'm just like, hey, I'm here to win the friendly points. You know? And it worked.
Carl got us the sportsmanship award, and I got us the W.
And we won.
It was perfect.
Travis, what about you?
I absolutely hate painting.
Do you?
I hate building models. I hate gluing them together.
I don't like building
cleaning
models. Them. More than I don't like.
I hate blocking in colors on the models. I hate using an airbrush. Once like a wash is applied, and I actually like the detailed work.
Okay.
Like I like putting highlights on the models. Once the wash is applied to my models, it'll take me like weeks to get to that point, and then I finish them that night once they're washed.
This is interesting.
Yeah. That
and you're a great painter, also.
Yes.
I freaking love painted models. That's the whole thing. Yeah. Is like same. I just love like sometimes before I go to bed, I just open up my cabinets. I just look at them, and I'm just like,
because you got those new cabinets. You got the same ones.
I know. I got the new cabinets. They're great. But it is kind of a chore. I have to kind of force myself, but the joy I feel having a completed painted unit is so great. It's what kind of pushes me through to get to that point.
Agreed.
And you know, and I've done it a lot.
You got to keep your eye on the end goal.
Yeah. I have, you know, like 3 armies. Well, my Tyranids are only 1,500 points, and I need to. But you know, they were once an army. 2,000 points. Yeah, it's an army. I love a painted army, but I don't much care the whole process.
What about the playing aspect of it? You clearly have enjoyed it. You've been playing a lot.
Yeah, I've always loved playing, and the only thing that always seems to get in the way is just life and the time. In fact, I remember when 6th edition dropped. My son was only 5. And my local game store started running midnight tournaments where you show up at midnight and it went till 8 a.m. I did it twice. And because I would put my kid to bed, I'd say goodnight to my wife. I'm like, I'm going to play 40K for 8 hours in the middle of the night.
You want to talk about art boys? That's hardcore.
Dude, yeah. I mean, granted, I was much younger. This was 10 years ago when I did this, but it was fantastic. So I love playing, and actually I played in a lot of tournaments, like back in the day, merely because I could get so many games in.
Yes.
But I'm a terrible player. I'm awful at this game, but I love it. So, well, what are you gonna do?
Travis, what are you bringing up here on the 8th?
I'm bringing my Eldar up on the 8th because it fits in a KR case.
Okay.
My Necrons, unfortunately, I mean they don't fit in a case as easily, and we're packing like for a full like 9 days, so it's space is.
I was going to say Eldar and Orcs don't work good as a team.
Well, you know, you never understand what the Skeen is telling you.
Well, we can come up with something
because. We will join with anyone, even the hated Necrons we have joined to bring down the terrors of chaos.
I could also bring Tau as well.
You really don't want to make friends.
Oh, yeah. Ed could bring Tau. Me and Ed could bring Eldar Tau.
You bring whatever you want to bring. Let's set up a doubles game. You guys against Shell and I think we'll have a blast.
Done.
We'll have a blast.
Yes.
All right. Melee combat or ranged warfare? What is your choice here? How does your play style reflect you personally? And Josh, let's talk with you first on this one.
Yeah, gameplay wise, I think I definitely prefer melee combat, and I think that's actually part of what has been appealing to me more with the Old World and Age of Sigmar. Is actually they are much more melee centric games. So you get your maneuvering, you get your positioning in, and then you just get in there and you're clobbering each other. And something about that, just kind of the whirling dervish of combat, just always reminds me of like the old. Cartoons, especially with combated cartoons where you just get into getting the dust ball with arms and stuff flying out of that, like just always appealed, getting in there, getting stuck in, having fun with it. I do also prefer, like, it's funny, I kind of have two speeds and not really the middle ground, which is probably, I think most people are like kind of balanced in the middle. Like I like a really finessey, like positioning, more Eldar play style of like every unit really has its purpose and positioning really matters for those to do their thing. And that's kind of like the puzzle pieces falling into place. And that's very satisfying. But aside from that, it's like, I want to get in there. I want to get stuck in. I want to be in your face and I want to have fun with it. And that speaks to my personality, and that I can have a large personality and be upfront, or I can be very reserved and tactical. And so I guess it does actually reflect upon saying this. Didn't really think about that, but sure.
You're duplicitous like the Eldar.
Yes.
Travis,
precisely. That's
what about you? What do you prefer?
Being a Eldar player from the start. That's what I got started with, and I looked at when you gave us this question, I looked at all my armies and I build balance. Like I'm always thinking about balance.
Yeah.
But I do slightly lean towards shooting. Like I focus on shooting, but I always have good combat elements. Even my Tyranid army is more than it's 60% shooting. And
well, let me tell you,
40%
can do some shooting now too.
Oh yeah. And Necrons, I'm very shooty, and then I have I have a Satan and the Scorpix that can mess up in there, but then everything else is shooting. So I'm almost bound. I'm 60% shooting, 40% melee. That's how I like to build lists, and and it hasn't worked out for me so far. So there we go.
How does that reflect your personality?
Oh, I always shoot first and kick later.
Perfect.
Ed, what about you? What's your preference here?
It's hard because I'd like to say that I'm a melee-based person, but a lot of times when I'm looking at what the units can do, I zero in on the amount of shots I can get, the strength and the damage it does, because I feel like in the meta, or when I play these games, you have to take out their vehicles. You have to. I'm always like, what's my most powerful gun that's going to take out their most powerful gun that's pointing at me? And
Tau rail gun.
So I think the
answer is Tau rail gun.
Yeah. So I think I'm a more of a shooter because my focus is to look at what's my biggest threat and try to take that out.
Interesting. I take kind of the same approach. Like when I'm building a list, I'm like, okay, I'm going to need some way to fire. But I think nothing makes me happier than jumping into combat with something that just overwhelmingly destroys something in combat, in close combat.
Yeah.
This is why I like Demon Princes, and when they get in, like, it's just, they wreck house. I almost feel bad for my opponent when, like, last night I did like 6 mortal wounds just before on the charge, and then it's like, okay. And now we fight.
On to combat.
Yeah. I think what that says about my personality, it's probably why I lean towards chaos, because it falls somewhere in the middle. You have shooting, you have close combat. And I've said this before, but from my old days and from now running role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of stuff, I was used to running the game, being the bad guys, and being okay with the players killing my bad guys. I mean, that's kind of what they were there to do. So when I'm playing chaos and I lose, like, I kind of don't take it personally. I'm just like, yeah, my chaos guys lose. Okay, they were there to.
I'll get you next time.
They were there to be entertaining for my opponent, and sometimes I win, and then they get a Return of the Jedi moment, and then the next time, or excuse me, Empire Strikes Back moment, and then the next game maybe they can win. So, I definitely fall in the middle, but man, nothing beats slaughtering something in close combat. Like, but it has to be like, for me, it has to be like precision close combat. Like, I don't necessarily want to throw 30 orc boys at something and roll 150 dice. I want to attack with like elite units that do like this. And one of the things I like about my Chaos list currently is I really don't need more than like 16 dice, like in total, like in the set.
Oh, nice.
It rolls pretty low numbers of dice for the most part, and they come in kind of waves. So it's a good list, but they hit hard. So that's what that says about me. Yeah. Last question, and then we'll wrap it up for the day, gentlemen. If you could make one adjustment to enhance the overall 40K gaming experience, and that's not necessarily a rules adjustment, but it could be, what would that adjustment for you be in this day and age? And Josh, I'll go to you first.
Oh, it's a hard one for me to answer. The game is in a really fun spot. I think it would be, I said something and I went back on it when we had the Badcast guys on, I think in the last Warrior Lodge, but for me, the Marines right now are lacking a little bit of personality chapter to chapter. Yeah, so it would be bringing some kind of chapter tactic back in. I think after playing a couple more games since that last discussion, like I don't miss it from a rules complexity side of things. And I think it is probably better for the game from a balance side that those do not exist. But playing my Sharks that have absolutely nothing special, and I'm trying to play them a way that they're not designed to be played, because they are not designed to be played as an assault-based army, and that's absolutely how I want to play them. Not having some sort of chapter tactics, gets me sustained hits with my chain swords when I'm in there, because I just want to get in there and get the scent of blood in the water and go into that kind of frenzy like they used to, which is very much how, like in 9th edition, 8th and 9th edition, they had rules that did exactly that brought them to life a bit more. So for me, it's just that one kind of layer. And I think, again, it's more specifically how I'm trying to play this army versus how that army is designed. And part of that, again, because I've been playing this army for 5 editions now. So I'm trying to fit the square peg in the round hole. And that's the one thing that I'm missing because of that, which honestly is probably why I'm more excited than Eldar than ever. And again, this will be my 3rd Eldar army, and I can't quit him. I keep coming back to him. I can't quit you. Because I've been playing Eldar since 2nd edition, and I'm so excited to bring him back to life. And I think it's more because I'm approaching that army how it is intended to be played from a ground up build of this force.
Ed, what about you?
Oh man. Okay. So for me personally, it is a tough question. So I'm just going to bring it to myself. And for me personally, what can make the experience better is if I can get over that my own wall that I build up to get me to go start playing again. Yeah. Because I know that when I play, it's going to be fun.
You have a great time.
And the games that I played. And so,
do you think that's you're a very social guy, so it's not like a social anxiety thing. It's more
I don't know what it is, because when we were in the group a long time ago now, we had that hobby shop. I knew everybody there.
Right. And
I think it's just that I just don't know anybody. I don't know what to expect from people. And so when I see that, that's what gets me.
I know what it is Ed was like an alpha gamer. And like he was up like an athlete at the top of his game. Like Ed was crushing his foes into pulp. And it's funny. He feels, and he's changed now. He's mellowed out, but he still feels those impulses, and he's scared to let that beast out again. He's scared what would happen.
He's maturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's a good point though you make about not knowing anybody, and it can be tricky. Like I've gone to now for a month and a half to this the guild house where these guys from Faultline are playing, and I knew a couple of them well, but for the most part, like I knew Bryce pretty well and I knew Michael Dunsmore pretty well. But then like I've played 3 games against people I had never met before. And got to know them, But it's, I mean, there's a little bit of like, you know, okay, I'm playing this new guy, and what do you expect? And so usually I just walk up to the table, especially in that kind of environment where it's like, it's not at my house too. And I'm just like, listen, I'm super easy going. If you need to take a move back or something, you just let me know. It's not even a problem. Like, I'm just here to have fun. And that seems to set them at ease. And like, I just try to set that tone initially where it's just, this is going to be a super fun thing for both of us. That's all it's meant to be. You know, I don't really care.
Does that being a vetted group, do you think that makes it easier or more approachable? Because some game stores, there's always going to be the outlier of like, nobody wants to play that guy I think how they play.
Yeah.
You know,
I think to a degree, I think there are still people in that group that I can tell, like having seen them, that I'd be like, well, this one will probably be a challenge for me. Like we're just not the right mix, you know? But I could be wrong too. It could be the best game ever. And I'm biased and making a biased assumption. Travis, what do you think for you?
All right. So I don't think that my idea or what would make it better for me probably doesn't make it better for all.
That's okay.
I want a psychic phase.
I do kind of
want a psychic phase. I want my psychers to be affecting the battle and tearing out the minds of the enemy psychers and crushing them in their hands.
Dude, Eldrad is still no joke.
Well, yeah, no.
Here, the hell out of people.
All of the psychic powers that they're using as shooting, Eldritch Storm is fantastic from the Jetbike Psyker. So I'm not really complaining about how the game's playing, and I understand you're adding another phase, but if they could find out a way just to like, I just loved the psychic phase. It was always my favorite part of the game, and I miss that it's not there anymore.
Your Necrons didn't like it.
Well, you know what? I didn't play Necrons back then. You know, Necrons are my new army.
I will agree that the psychic abilities don't feel like psychic abilities anymore.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of, it's just another shooting attack I get, you know, on top of my shooting attack. But I don't know. I got to play around with it a little bit more. But yeah, I do miss psychers feeling like psychers, you know.
So. But at the end of the day, the game's playing fantastic right now. So ever. I could be wrong.
I think it's in a great place. I think I'm going to play more of this than I played of 8th edition, and I played a lot of 8th edition. So, you know, for me, I think they're on the right track with kind of everything. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them go digital on the codexes and make those things digitally purchasable, so that we don't have to be bothered with, you know, the hassle of a lot of this stuff. Like I think they need to embrace their digital identity a little bit. And this goes for their website as well. We've talked about that. Like, it's all very frustrating to navigate through. And I'll tell you, even activating the code from the back of the codex is a pain in the butt. And for Shell to do it, it was like, okay, you got to sign up under this thing. Now you got to do this. And the sign up doesn't work very well. And then, okay, what page am I supposed to go? Well, that one's not, showing. It was absolutely not a good user experience. And
it's cumbersome.
I've worked in the software industry.
Yeah,
so for me, it's all about user experience. And this is just terrible, a terrible, terrible user experience. Straighten it out, because they're on the right track is the thing. Like, they're on the right path. It's just taking them a lot longer to get there than I think it needs to. So that's where I want to see them focus. But yeah. All right. Well, with that said, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll close out the show. All right, and we're back. And let's close out the show. Listen, Ed, Travis, thank you so much for joining us. Where do people go to listen to Life After the Cover Save or get more involved with your community, which is a sick in the head community, but still, I like being involved in it.
Whoa.
Listen,
you know, we're trying to evolve.
You have been sent pictures in the past by some of your listeners that are something else.
I don't know what you're talking about, Carl.
Yeah, we're an all inclusive
Fair
community.
I like
that. We do not kink shame at Life After the Cover Save, and we never will.
But yeah, kids are now like, what's that mean, Dad?
You can find us on Apple's, Spotify, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. Life After the Cover Save is the full name, and we do have a Discord that we're chatting up, putting hobby pictures on there.
Nice.
Also, the Facebook page. If you're of a certain age and still have Facebook, you could find us on there. But Facebook is great for hobby. That's all I use.
It's also great for setting up events.
Setting up events and stuff like that.
I wish I could quit it, but there's just some features about it that are just too useful.
And also, we're rolling out a new Patreon with the podcast to add some additional content. If you like what you're getting for free and you want to support us, then we'll give you a little bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah. And that Patreon is where you can find that picture that listener sent us.
And
you can see it. It's not there.
So you'll get a bunch of 1 month low end subscriptions. It'll be like, yep, I saw it, I'm out.
We got the picture level for $1. You get to see the picture.
Oh my god!
I don't even know where the picture is. I think we threw it away.
Oh, probably a good idea. That's illegal in some countries. So, like Life After the Cover Save, we have a Patreon. If you don't know, Josh and I are releasing some bonus content there, as well as a few other things. You know what we haven't talked about yet this episode, Josh, and that we need to, is our upcoming 2024-2025 Hobby Progress Challenge, right. The War on Gray Plastic.
Bringing it back.
4. I think this is the World War on Gray Plastic 4. I'm going to tack on after the show a piece that Josh and I did all about the parameters around which you can participate in the Hobby Progress Challenge. You can win prizes, all that kind of stuff, just for painting your armies. As you go, painting a unit a month. Super easy. If there's other contests that you're involved in with this, double dip. By all means, but there's some criteria you have to follow to get qualified for each month. And all that information can be found at theindependentcharacters.com under the information about the
community.
The community section. There is a link in there that has all the rules and the FAQs for how you get involved. It's super easy. You just have to take a picture before you start and a picture once you're done with a little card that has your name and the date that you started and the date you finished. And you get entered for drawings for prizes from some of our sponsors, and it's going to be great stuff. So anyway, listen to that after we close out the show here.
It's more open and more flexible than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, it's not 40K specific. It's not even GW specific. It's all, we can make some adjustments.
Just getting stuff painted.
Yeah, and I want to thank Shell, who's going to help us track all that information when she's done painting her Helldrake over there. Good stuff.
She'll be done with the Helldrake in less than a year.
Dude, I'm telling you, she's motivated. She's freaking motivated. So I'm very excited. But it's been fun. It's been fun having a partner super involved in it. And as I said, awesome. Another thing, like one of the greatest things is like we finish a unit and then she gets to go to Travis's point, she gets to go put it in the shelf next to all the others. She's like, and she like arrange everything. And I'm like, she's really into it. So super, super loving it. Leave us reviews on iTunes. We love reviews on iTunes. We'll read them out here on the show if we see them there. We have a Facebook group, as we just talked about. We are men of a certain age, and we do have a Facebook group. There's a lot of stuff in that Facebook group. We have a Discord as well that you can join. Wherever we're doing all those things that you're supposed to be doing. So. You guys got anything you want to add before we close it out?
No.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We really
thanks for joining.
And we'll have you on again sometime. We may even have Blake on if he starts playing 40K.
Ooh, is that a threat? Is that a threat?
It's a promise. It's a promise.
Okay. All right.
He's coming up. He's going to play. He wants to play Necromunda, Josh. He wants to play a game of Necromunda.
Close enough.
Well, yeah, Ed and I are playing some Titanicus, and I think Blake was jumping in on that as well.
Oh, I think that's a good. He can use my Titans if he wants.
If there's enough bandwidth, I would love to play a game of 40K, a game of Titanicus, and a game of Necromunda.
That's a lot. That's a lot to ask. That's a lot to ask.
We'll see if I can pull it off.
We'll see what we can do. All right.
Titanicus and 40K. We'll take the first 2 slots, but I'll get Necromunda.
And we'll talk all about that on the next show too. So okay. So until next time, this is Carl.
This is Josh.
This is Travis.
This is Ed.
We're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where the painting never ends, and I'm happy for it. Josh?
And where cover saves and independent characters are from an age long past.
And the psychic phase might be gone, but the friends we made along the way are still here.
Ed?
Where life is always sweeter.
After the cover save. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and we will see you next time. Hey, this is Carl and Josh, and we want to talk briefly to you about our new Hobby Progress Challenge, which we are beginning in July. So because you're getting this announcement, if you're on the Patreon, you're getting it a little bit in advance, about a week or so in advance of July. If you are just a regular listener to the show, you're getting this around July 1st or whenever you listen to the July 1st episode that drops.
When the episode drops. Yeah.
You have the whole month here. The first month is a bit of an amnesty month, so we'll talk about what that means in a second. But like previous Hobby Progress Challenges, or as we called them, the War on Gray Plastic, the objective here is for you to get models painted. And every month, you will post up to our Discord channel. We'll explain how all that works shortly. But you'll post up, here's what I'm going to get painted this month. You will then post a picture with a date card in front of it saying, here's the thing that I'm going to paint. And then at the end of the month, you'll post up, or whenever you finish it, you post up, hey, here's the finished unit or models, and here's a tag with that date. The objective here again is to get things painted. Now, ideally, it would work towards painting a whole army, but we recognize that some people are coming into this halfway through painting an army, or maybe they change gears halfway through what they're doing, and that's fine.
Maybe a point update drops, and you are pivoting on what units are your priority for painting,
or even changing armies at that point.
Yeah.
But the idea is that you're painting a unit a month, and that unit could be a vehicle, it could be an HQ, it could be a squad. It's whatever you decide. Now, here's the thing. Every time you complete one of these units, you get an entry into our drawing at the end of the Hobby Progress Challenge, which will take place over 12 months. And then at the end of the entire Hobby Progress Challenge, we take every entry that has been achieved. We do the drawing for various prizes that we will have available. And I can tell you right now, Table War is already committed to quite a plethora of prizes for us to give away. We're going to be reaching out to other sponsors and such to get their assistance in providing some great product as well. So be aware that every model you complete, again, you get entry into the drawing. Now, those people who have completed all 12 months of that will be in one category for a sets of prizes. And then those who have completed just some of the months will be in another set of categories. And the bigger prizes are going to be in the full 12-month completion.
The full commitment.
Yeah, so... And here's the thing, we would draw from that first, and then so if you were in that full 12 month, you didn't win anything there, you would be in the second category to potentially win things there too. So just a heads up. This is all going to be tracked, Josh, through Discord. And Shell, and probably Loopy, but Shell has offered to do all the tracking for us, which is greatly appreciated. And we're going to put up information on how that is tracked in Discord and all the details that you need on our website. We'll post those in the Facebook group, and we will post those in the Discord itself as well. But there will be a special channel set aside for the Hobby Progress Challenge. Basically, there's a special channel set aside for it. You will create a thread within that channel, and that's where you will post your before and after pictures as you're working through each of your models. So, and other people can then see what you're working on and compliment you or comment on those as you request. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Did I miss anything there, Josh?
I think that covers the bases. And the reason we've gone with Discord, I was obviously realizing that not everybody is a member of our Discord server, but it is the closest thing to a forum that we can access these days without, having to pay hosting and getting a forum rebuilt
or building and maintaining a forum again.
Building and maintaining a forum,
which nobody wants. Nobody's using forums anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I liked them.
They definitely had some pros to it, but this is the best way we can get everybody to show your before and afters in quick succession, browse through a bunch of things, make sure we're checking off and getting everybody credit for the work that they have completed.
Right.
Definitely, I think the best answer for this kind of thing here, and also it's a cool platform, so it'll also be a small bonus to have more people engaging with our. And
there's a lot going on in our Discord channel, so if you're not in there now, you're kind of missing out. So that's basically the Hobby Progress Challenge. It'll run from this summer to next summer, and over that period of time, you'll have plenty of time to paint models, get things completed, and hopefully at the end of it, you have something to show for all your work. And
the third war on gray plastic.
That's right. And you've probably maybe third or fourth. I don't remember how many.
It's at least the third.
War never changes. The war on gray plastic never changes. But the other thing I'd say is this has always been very successful and very popular in the past. And here's the other rub. Like, if there are other places doing challenges like this, you can double dip. There's nothing saying you can't double dip. This does not have to be Warhammer 40K specific. It does not have to. It's what you're into and what you're working on, and we just want to help you get through that backlog.
That's actually a great point that I was going to reemphasize. And then you mentioned it, which is great. This is not 40K specific, so it is unit entry of some type. But if you're super excited about Age of Sigmar, if you're stoked on Necromunda, you want to play Blood Bowl, whatever it is, kind of whatever a unit entails for those systems, we're just here to support burning through backlogs and getting models painted. More time, yes. That's a gang. A unit is a full gang.
Yes. Same
for Blood Bowl, something like that.
Yeah, so there you go. And we're super excited to run it again. It's been very successful, and I want to thank Table War because they were the first ones to step up. And like, I was talking to Todd today, and I was like, "Hey, this is what we got going." He goes, "Oh, we will fully back you on this. This is a great idea. We love doing this stuff." I was like, "Oh, that's fantastic, so helpful." So they'll even they'll do large prizes to small prizes, and they have great products, absolutely fantastic products. I use them myself, so I'm pretty much Tableware exclusive when it comes to my mats. Even though there's some other nice ones out there.
Mats,
I think they put out
carrying cases.
Yep.
The tower case, love it.
When I go down to the guild house, I'm using that case. And the other night I used my KR backpack, which I love for travel, like absolutely love for travel. But man, it is so much easier to put my models away and take them out of that case. I have a few things I got to get magnetized up a little better because they were sliding around. It was my own fault.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, I really should have done this right. So I'm going to do that right and then start taking that case again. Cause the other night when I played, it was fun, but putting the models away was like, I'd rather just set them in this table.
Especially all the spikes, grabbing foam and things like that.
Especially with chaos.
Done.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I'm ready to do this. And so Josh, I'm going to be painting for the Hobby Progress Challenge, My Sisters of Battle. And I've been kind of holding off on it, and I was working today.
Yes, you are.
I was working today on how to get the red I want. I'm doing the Order of the Bloody Chalice, and Order of the Bloody Rose, and I'm such a picky person when it comes to red. Like, red is like that color for me that if it's too orange, I'm like, I do not like that color. And if it's too dark, it's like burgundy. I'm like, I don't really like that color. But like there's this sweet spot for me with red where it's just like this really dark, deep red that I just love. And so I was playing around today with my airbrush and came, thanks to the training I got from Caleb on the Night Lords that I've been doing for Shell. Like I saw like the technique and I was like, okay, if I replicate the way this is done, I should get a good result. And it was really about picking the right colors to complement and then build up to a filter. And man, the red I came up with is so sweet. Like I showed it to Sean. What do you think is red? She's like, that looks really good. I'm like, right?
Nice.
Like
That's
it's
awesome.
Okay. It's not just me. So I'm very excited to knock that out.
That hobby hangout we did with Caleb, and obviously not everybody has watched that, but the live stream we did with Caleb for the hobby hangout is available on YouTube. And watching him, I don't even remember what model it was. I think it was a sister.
Yeah.
But he did like a slap chop, a filter, and then some details on top of that. And what he was able to get so quickly was so impressive that it's worth a watch for everybody else, even if you haven't seen it, just for the insights from Caleb in that hobby hangout.
So what's funny is I was doing the color for my rhino, and I have like a chaos rhino. I just use this test model. Yeah. And so I was trying to get to this red, and I got to it, and the funny thing about it was, I then went over and I picked up one of my Sisters of Battle rhinos, and I was like, oh my god, these have so much detail on them. like every Sisters of Battle model has detail like you cannot, like if you haven't ever had the chance to like just take a close look at those models. Every vehicle has like 50 more bits than every other vehicle. They are works of art. And
finer detail too, especially like the sisters themselves. They are a little bit smaller scale compared to Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as they should be. But they pack a ton of detail because they are a very new, updated range.
So they
did a great job with.
This is an army that's going to challenge me, and I feel like I've been doing so much painting lately. Like my skills have been improving because I've been just working at it. Like somebody was over the other day and they were looking at the Night Lords that I've been doing for Shell, and they were like, holy smokes, like Carl's really gotten good. And Shell goes, you can see how he's improved from like the earlier lightning to this lightning, and like just the stuff. It's like I've gotten like just from repetition you get better, right? So I'm ready to start laying down like the base coats on my Sisters of Battle right now. So I'm gonna take some photos for the Hobby Bragas Challenge. Do you have anything specific I know what you're going to work on.
Eldar.
Yeah.
The Eldar project I've got going is perfect time to kick this off. I actually need to get the combat patrol done in the next month, so I will hopefully be getting a couple unit entries done ahead of time, or I'll just count that as one. That's fine. But I'll be kicking off with that and being very excited to pretty swiftly add to that. Oh yeah, that is a really nice.
I'm showing him the red now. How's that look? Like that fade looks pretty good, huh?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's almost got the pre-shade going on there, but it's just really dark and rich, and
then it goes to a brighter up near the top. Yep, and that's 4 paints to get to that point. But it's worth the investment. And so for me, like you're kind of pushing yourself on the Eldari. I'm going to push myself on this army because this is something that I think when a Sisters battle is done well, oh my God, it looks so good. It looks so good, and it's just striking. And I don't know how well it'll play. I don't know if it's even the style I like to play, but I just love the artwork.
They're fun. I haven't played against the new Codex because obviously it just dropped today. But
who was it that has one up at Craig? Craig is such a good painter. Like I saw his. I may end up going to Craig for some questions and help. So
they look fantastic, and it's a really fun and unique play style too. I think you'll enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too. So all right, so look for more information very shortly. Certainly by the time we add this to our next episode, the episode dropping July 1st, you will all the details and all the instructions and everything will be out there for how to start tracking this. But earlier I said July is an amnesty month. So usually what that means is when the new month starts, you have 5 days to put up, here is the models I am going to paint here's the unit I'm going to paint in that month. July is a little bit different because we're dropping this on everybody last minute. We're giving you until the end of the month to even post, like, here's what I'm going to do. So you can literally post something on day 30 of the month and post the completed version of it on day 31, and we're fine with that. Note that as we go into August, it's going to be, you have until the 5th of August to post your unit with its date card. So you have some time to think about what it is you want to do. We think that's fair. But you have time to think about what it is you want to do and how you want to structure it and what units you want to work on. And there you go. There you go. I'm excited about it. I'm going to get the Sisters Army done.
Yeah, it's the perfect motivation to get a new army going like this, especially you and I both jumping into me, Eldar, and you, Sisters Battle. That's kind of the ideal approach to it. But yeah, everybody else I think is going to benefit from it too. So
yeah, this is going to
whatever you got.
It's going to challenge me, especially there's a lot of whites in it, which is always take your time, lots of layers. I've been watching a lot of tutorials on YouTube about how to paint white. Oh, really?
Yeah, they're white. Fantastic.
Okay. But the problem is...
That's the pure white, but you also don't want to go pure white.
I don't want to go pure white. I got to go from grays to white. White
shades of grays.
But I will get the Pro Acryl for the highlights, right? The biggest highlight. Okay. And is that carried at Herrick?
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Titanium white, Pro Acryl, hands down the best white. So easy to airbrush. Don't need to thin them or anything. They're incredible.
HerrickGames.com. You can see the link in our show notes. And they're a fantastic sponsor, and you can get a discount when you buy there. So, okay. So cool. I just wanted to share that with everybody. Good luck. We will, as we determine exactly what the prizes are, we will share those all out. But I'm telling you, this always delivers pretty good prizes for your investment. So,
the biggest prize of all is painted models. So everything else is bonus.
It was really the journey along the way.
All the time, the whole time, it was about the journey.
So we're gonna start doing some hobby hangouts too, Josh, because I want to get it's fun painting with friends too.
Absolutely.
In fact, we should even do maybe some hobby days where just everybody gets together and paints. So that'd be fun, and we can maybe film some of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. Good luck, and we'll see you on the other side. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.